Chapter 257. You can keep watching. Lu Ming smiled. He then moved and headed down the Sunset Peak. He didn't come here to see the outcome of the battle between the 6 heroes, but to see their strength. Now that he had a rough idea of the strength of the 6 Burning Sun heroes, there was no need for him to continue watching. He couldn't care less about the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun tribe. Lu Ming moved like a gust of wind and returned to the dormitory very quickly. He sat cross-legged on his bed and closed his eyes. The battle scene of the 6 Burning Sun heroes appeared in his mind. He had a rough idea of the strength of the 6 Burning Sun heroes. Feng Wuji, Ling Yanqi, Guanhong, Xiao Changlai, and the others were all at the peak of LV3 Martial Grandmaster Realm, but their combat strength was terrifying. They were at least at LV5 Martial Grandmaster Realm. That was Martial Grandmaster Realm. The higher one's martial arts realm was, the harder it was to fight above one's level. In the Martial Grandmaster Realm, those who could fight above one level were already peerless geniuses, let alone 2 levels. As for Guanhong and Xiao Changlai, they could only win because their force or martial techniques were stronger. The 6 Burning Sun heroes are indeed worthy of their reputation. They are only in their 20s, but many of the older grandmasters are no match for them. Lu Ming thought to himself. However, Lu Ming was not discouraged. Instead, his eyes were burning with passion. Although the 6 Burning Sun heroes were strong, he was confident that he could catch up with or even surpass them soon. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming left the Star General Hall and went to the Treasure Pavilion again. He used the last 400,000 spiritual crystals he had to buy 100 Class 9 LV3 monster cores. After buying the monster cores, Lu Ming went into the Divine Wind Valley. The arduous cultivation continued. Every day, Lu Ming would gain something. Be it his cultivation level, martial arts techniques, or force, all of them improved. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Lu Ming had refined all 100 monster cores. He walked out of the Divine Wind Valley at this time. He returned to his dormitory but did not go in. Instead, he went to Ming Peak's room. He wanted to find Ming Peak to ask about the situation in the Imperial City in the past month. He had a premonition that the Imperial capital wouldn't be peaceful during this month. Many things would definitely happen. When he arrived at Ming Peak's dormitory, he found that Ming Peak was not there. Could it be in Myongcheng's place? With a thought, Lu Ming walked towards Myongcheng's dormitory. Now, Myongcheng had replaced Bai Qi's position as one of the top 10 experts of the outer hall. He lived in a courtyard. When he arrived at Myongcheng's dormitory, he found that Ming Peak and Pearl were both here. They were sitting on a stone bench in the courtyard with Myongcheng and were chatting. "Big brother Tianyun, you've come out of seclusion?" Ming Peak grinned when he saw Lu Ming. "Lu Ming, others call me a martial arts man, but I think you're the real one. You can still go into seclusion peacefully at this time." Myongcheng smiled. "Oh? Why can't I go into seclusion peacefully? Did something big happen in the Imperial City during this time?" Lu Ming asked with a smile. "Of course. During this period of time, the Imperial City has been in turmoil," Myongcheng said. "A month ago, Feng Wuji and Ling Yanqi were defeated in the battle between the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun sect. Shangguan Qiu and Zhuo Lian fought and exchanged thousands of blows. However, this matter didn't end there. A few days later, the gold-ranked disciples of the various sects fought fiercely. However, the 10-direction sword sect was extremely powerful. They had the upper hand in the battle between the gold-ranked disciples. About 10 days ago, the 10-direction sword sect sent out a 9th-level martial grand master to challenge the Mystic Essence Sword sect, Crimson Cloud Valley, and Star General Hall. The Star General Hall was the first to suffer a crushing defeat. The strongest group of people in the inner hall were swept away by a disciple of the 10-direction sword sect without any power to fight back. After that, the Crimson Cloud Valley and the Mystic Essence Sword sect also suffered a crushing defeat. The disciples sent out by the 10-direction sword sect were too strong. They were invincible in the martial Grand Master realm. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect on the silver ranking were all defeated. Ming Qing gave a brief account of what had happened. Lu Ming was also secretly surprised. In this month, many things had happened in the imperial capital. In this month, the reputation of the 10 Direction Sword Sect has been like the sun in the sky. On the other hand, the Mystic Essence Sword Sect, Crimson Cloud Valley, and the others have suffered a great decline in reputation. Especially the royal family, they have been suppressed even more. It is said that the Mystic Essence Sword Sect has already mobilized the Qilin Courtyard's geniuses with special bloodlines to come here and compete with the geniuses of the 10 Direction Sword Sect. Myongcheng said. Big brother, among the 9th layer martial grand masters sent by the 10 Direction Sword Sect, there is a special bloodline. If the Mystic Essence Sword Sect or Crimson Cloud Valley's geniuses with special bloodlines come here, they might be able to fight, Pearl said with her bright eyes. It's hard to say. I heard that the strongest martial grand masters of the 10 Direction Sword Sect have not made their move yet, Myongcheng said. It can't be? Myongcheng and Ming Peek were speechless. Myongcheng, brother Myongcheng, something big has happened. Suddenly, a young man rushed in hurriedly. Che Yuan, what's wrong? Myongcheng looked at the young man and asked. I heard that the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's geniuses with special bloodlines have arrived, and the 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples have already come to challenge them, the young man said. What? So soon? Let's go and have a look. Myongcheng shouted, then looked at Lu Ming and said, Brother Tianyun, do you want to come with us? Lu Ming's eyes moved, and he nodded. Together with Myongcheng and the others, they rushed to the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's residence in Imperial City. When they arrived, they found that the entrance of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's residence was already surrounded by people. At the front, there were more than 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples. A 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciple stood at the entrance of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's residence and shouted arrogantly, Mystic Essence Sword Sect's trash, hurry up and come out. What special bloodline geniuses? I think they're just a bunch of trash. Ha! The other 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples burst into laughter, full of contempt. A few of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's guards turned pale. Mystic Essence Sword Sect's trash, hurry up and come out. Are you trying to be a coward? The young man at the front continued to shout. Tianyun, this young man is called Wu Kuei. He's extremely powerful. During this period of time, he defeated almost all of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's martial grand masters by himself. Myongcheng whispered to Lu Ming. Creak! At that moment, the door of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's residence opened, and a few young men and women walked out. There were a total of 4 of them, 3 men and 1 woman. All of them had an imposing aura, and it was obvious that they were giants among men. Wu Kuei, don't think that you're invincible just because you defeated those trash from the 4 great halls. Comparing us to those trash is your biggest mistake. A young man carrying a battle axe walked out and said arrogantly. Lu Ming could not help but curl his lips. The people from the Qilin Courtyard were really the same. Regardless of their cultivation level, they were all high and mighty. Of course, except for the mid-autumn moon, Lu Ming added in his heart. Special bloodlines are also divided into high and low ranks. Some special bloodlines are trash. In my opinion, you guys are similar to those trash. Wu Kuei sneered. You're courting death. Chapter 258. Slash! The young man from the Mystic Essence Sword Sect shouted and slashed down with his battle axe. The battle axe carried a terrifying force. Obviously, these geniuses who were at the peak of the martial Grand Master realm had comprehended the force, and were not weak at all. Child's play! Wu Kuei sneered and punched out. A terrifying fist force landed on the battle axe. Dong! With a loud explosion, the young man with the battle axe retreated slightly. Damn it! Explode! The young man with the battle axe roared and an ancient battle axe floated above his head. There were 6 blood-red chakras on the battle axe. This was his special bloodline. The battle axe vibrated and merged with the young man, causing his aura to surge. Sky-splitting slash! The young man roared and slashed out with his battle axe. This axe strike was capable of splitting mountains and splitting the heavens. Its might was 2 times stronger than the previous axe strike. Buzz! At that moment, a blood-red light flashed on Wu Kuei's body and a boundless mountain appeared above his head. The mountain was ancient, like a demonic mountain in the primordial times. Wu Kuei's bloodline was a mountain. Without a doubt, this was also a special bloodline. How mysterious! Wu Kuei's bloodline is a mountain. I've never seen him use it before. Someone shouted. Demonic mountain of hell! Wu Kuei roared and punched out. The terrifying fist force turned into a boundless demonic mountain and pressed down on the young man with the battle axe. Slash it open! The young man with the battle axe roared and slashed the mountain with his battle axe. Boom! With a violent tremor, the mountain was not slashed open. Instead, the young man with the battle axe trembled and his body was pressed down by the mountain and smashed to the ground. With a blood-curdling scream, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The young man with the battle axe was crushed into a pulp by the mountain. A genius with a special bloodline was killed just like that. Humph, special bloodlines contain ancient and mysterious secrets. Only by comprehending a mysterious secret skill can one unleash the power of the special bloodline to the extreme. What's the point of leaving a piece of trash who can only use special bloodlines to comprehend the force and cultivate martial skills alive? Wu Kuei sneered. The remaining young men from the Mystic Essence Sword sect looked terrible. Now, who wants to fight? Wu Kuei looked at the remaining people. In the martial Grand Master realm, the duration of his bloodline eruption had increased to a shocking 10 minutes. He could already fight for a long period of time. The remaining members of the Mystic Essence Sword sect looked at each other with grave expressions. For a moment, no one stepped out. What? What a bunch of trash! Is this the strength of your Mystic Essence Sword sect? How disappointing! Let me tell you, there are still 5 people stronger than me in the Decimo Sword sect. Wu Kuei sneered. What? 5 more people? Impossible! Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked by Wu Kuei's words. Originally, everyone thought that with Wu Kuei's strength, he would definitely be one of the top few in the Shifang Sword sect. He might even be the strongest martial Grand Master in the Shifang Sword sect. But now, Wu Kuei actually said that there were 5 people stronger than him in the 10 Directions Sword sect. How was this possible? If it was true, wouldn't it be too terrifying? Your Mystic Essence Sword sect can't even beat me, who is ranked 6th. In my opinion, you should just withdraw from the 5 great sections. Wu Kuei continued to taunt. Damn it, I'll fight you. Among the remaining 3 people from the Mystic Essence Sword sect, a young man with a battle sword on his back walked out. There was nothing to say. The battle immediately broke out. Unfortunately, Wu Kuei was too strong. The young man with the battle sword on his back had an ancient battle sword in his bloodline. He was stronger than the young man with the battle axe, but he was still no match for Wu Kuei. After more than 30 moves, the young man with the battle sword was hit by Wu Kuei's mountain and coughed up blood. If not for his strength, he would have been crushed into a pulp. Another person from the Mystic Essence Sword sect had lost. Ha, who else? Come up and fight me. Wu Kuei laughed arrogantly. The remaining 2 people from the Mystic Essence Sword sect had ugly expressions. Their strength was not comparable to the young man with the battle sword on his back. If they went up, they would only be humiliating themselves. They might even lose their lives. However, they were already the strongest martial Grand Masters in the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Who else wants to come up? Don't you even dare to fight? What a bunch of trash. Wu Kuei laughed. In the crowd, Lu Ming looked on coldly. He had no intention of fighting. What did the Mystic Essence Sword sect's defeat have to do with him? He was not interested in fighting. In the clouds above the sky, Lin Shui, the Mystic Essence Sword sect leader, and a few golden-robed elders stood among the clouds. They looked down with gloomy faces. I didn't expect the Decimo Sword sect to have secretly cultivated so many peerless geniuses over the years. Wu Kuei has already comprehended some secret techniques from his bloodline. Ordinary special bloodlines are no match for him. One of the golden-robed elders sighed. It's a pity that Duan Mulin has broken through to the martial ancestor realm. If he was still a martial grand master, he would have defeated him. Another golden-robed elder said. Then they all fell silent. Now that they had lost, they had to think about how to reduce their influence as much as possible. Junior brother Wu Kuei, looks like they don't dare to come up. Sigh, how disappointing. I thought I would have a decent opponent today. Another disciple from the Decimos Sword Sect sighed. Your Mystic Essence Sword Sect should withdraw from the 5 major sects as soon as possible. Don't embarrass yourself, haha. Wu Kuei laughed. In the crowd, Lu Ming smiled and shook his head. He was about to walk out. Tianyun, it's you? Stop right there. Suddenly, a loud roar was heard. Lu Ming was stunned. He stopped in his tracks and turned around. A disciple from the Decimos Sword Sect stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy face. He gritted his teeth. Obviously, this disciple had seen him before and recognized him at this time. The others beside Lu Ming were shocked and could not help but step back. Suddenly, only Myongqing and his siblings were left around Lu Ming. He's Tianyun? Wu Kuei looked at Lu Ming. Yes, he's Tianyun. He has repeatedly gone against the Decimos Sword Sect. He deserves to die. The young man who recognized Lu Ming said with murderous intent. During this period, other senior brothers have been looking for him, but he has been hiding like a turtle. Today, I finally saw him. The young man added. Hiding? Lu Ming was a little speechless. He was just cultivating in seclusion. Since when did he hide? Well, then I'll get rid of him. Wu Kuei smiled coldly and walked towards Lu Ming. He looked at Lu Ming coldly and said, Tianyun, right? You should know that the crimes you've committed are unforgivable. How about this? I'll give you a chance to commit suicide. That way, I can make the decision to leave your corpse intact. Wu Kuei put his hands behind his back and looked arrogant. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. This guy thinks too highly of himself. He wants me to commit suicide? Is there something wrong with your head? Or did your mother accidentally squash your head when she gave birth to you? Lu Ming stared at Wu Kuei and said word by word. Pfft. Chapter 259. They actually didn't want to laugh, but Lu Ming's words made them unable to hold back. Especially Ming Peak, he laughed until tears flowed out. Even the other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect couldn't hold back their laughter. Wu Kuei's face turned red as his eyes turned red. He was so angry that his body trembled as he roared. Die, bastard! Boom! Wu Kuei threw a punch at Lu Ming. The fist force condensed into a huge mountain with shocking power. Lu Ming sneered and didn't back down at all. He also threw a punch. Bang! Lu Ming's fist smashed into the mountain that Wu Kuei threw out. A scene that made people's eyes pop out appeared. The mountain rumbled and exploded from Lu Ming's punch. Bang! 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 Wu Kuei took 7 to 8 steps back as his fist trembled nonstop. The surrounding onlookers sucked in a cold breath. Lu Ming actually forced Wu Kuei back with a punch. How was that possible? The strength that Wu Kuei displayed just now was extremely shocking. He suppressed many experts of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect and was simply an invincible existence in the martial Grand Master realm. Now, he was actually forced back by Lu Ming with a punch? A few months ago, Lu Ming had displayed extremely powerful combat strength in the D-Tian battle arena. He was able to obtain 10 consecutive victories across 2 levels. It was extremely terrifying. However, his cultivation was only in the 6th level of the martial Grand Master realm. As for Wu Kuei, he was at the peak of the 9th level of the martial Grand Master realm, and a peerless genius. Before this punch, no one thought that Lu Ming could fight with Wu Kuei. However, the reality exceeded everyone's expectations. Damn it! Wu Kuei roared as his aura became even more terrifying. He was like an enraged lion. What are you shouting for? You're too weak. Aren't there a few people in the 10 Directions sword sect who are stronger than you? Come at me together. I don't have that much time to play with you. If you want to fight, hurry up and come at me together. Lu Ming glanced at the other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect and said indifferently, What? What? The disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect were stunned. The surrounding spectators were also stunned. Lu Ming actually wanted to challenge all the experts of the 10 Directions sword sect. Was he crazy? In the sky, Lin Xue's eyes flashed as she stared at Lu Ming. This young man is quite strong, but he's underestimating the geniuses of the Decimos sword sect. A golden-robed elder shook his head. It's not that I'm looking down on the geniuses of the Shifang sword sect, it's just that this young man is confident in himself. Lin Shui said. You have the confidence? According to the sect leader's words, could it be that this little fellow had challenged the experts of the 10 Directions sword sect and won? How was this possible? Even when Chiu Changkong was a martial grandmaster, he wasn't this strong, right? The golden-robed elder said. We haven't fought yet. Who knows? Lin Shui smiled faintly. The other golden-robed elders were somewhat bewildered. Arrogant, too arrogant. He is courting death. Kill him. Many disciples of Decimo's sword faction roared furiously. Tianyan, since you're so confident, don't blame us for winning by outnumbering you. Let's attack together. A handsome young man said coldly. He took a step forward and appeared beside Lu Ming, forming a triangle with Wu Kuei. Boom! Then, an extremely shocking aura erupted from the young man's body. Then, a bloodline in the shape of a saber appeared. There was no doubt that it was also a special bloodline. As soon as the bloodline appeared, a shocking saber light shot into the sky. Its aura was even stronger than Wu Kuei's. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then, 4 figures flashed and appeared around Lu Ming, surrounding Lu Ming. A bloodline floated above each of the 4 of them. 2 of them had special bloodlines, and the other 2 didn't have special bloodlines. However, they were extremely powerful mutants. Each of their aura was terrifyingly powerful. Each of their aura was stronger than Wu Kuei's. The geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword sect with special bloodlines turned pale. Their eyes were full of disappointment. The onlookers also widened their eyes in shock. Previously, when Wu Kuei said that there were 5 geniuses stronger than him in the Decimos sword sect, many people didn't believe him. They thought that Wu Kuei was trying to elevate the Decimos sword sect. But now, they knew that Wu Kuei was telling the truth. There were really 5 geniuses in the Decimos sword sect who were stronger than Wu Kuei. This was too shocking. Countless people were shocked by the strength of the Decimos sword sect. One of these geniuses is enough to defeat all geniuses of the same level, let alone 6 of them. Tianyan is doomed. He will die here today. It's a pity that such a genius will die here. In the future, he will not be weaker than the 6 heroes. The crowd sighed. Attack! At this moment, the 6 exceptional geniuses attacked at the same time. Boom! Boom! 6 different attacks flew towards Lu Ming from different directions. Each of the attacks was extremely terrifying. Each of them had the power of a martial ancestor realm LV1. The martial grandmaster realm and martial ancestor realm were 2 completely different realms. The gap between them was like heaven and earth. It was rare for a martial grandmaster realm cultivator to have the combat strength of a martial ancestor realm LV1. Now, the 6 geniuses from the Decimos sword sect had the strength of a martial ancestor realm LV1. One could imagine how terrifying they were. Wind, fire, Lu Ming said softly. He grasped the air with his right hand and a long spear appeared. The long spear was infused with the power of wind and fire. Boom! Then, Lu Ming bent his legs slightly and exerted force. The ground under his feet exploded, creating a large hole. The floor cracked like a spider web. Lu Ming's body shot up into the sky like a cannonball. The long spear pierced upwards, creating a terrifying whistling sound. Boom! Lu Ming's spear pierced a large hole in the joint attack of the 6 geniuses. Lu Ming shot up into the sky. Go up and surround him! one of the geniuses from the Decimo's sword sect shouted. Then, the sound of the air being pierced could be heard. 6 figures shot up into the sky. Human Dao palm! Lu Ming said softly and threw a palm down. Whoosh! Spiritual chi surged wildly between heaven and earth and gathered toward Lu Ming. A large palm print appeared in the sky. The lines on the palm were clear as if they were real. The large palm print slammed down. Wherever the palm print passed, the air would explode. It was extremely terrifying. Not good. Let's fight together. The faces of the 6 geniuses from the Decimo's sword sect changed drastically. They screamed in horror. The 6 of them used all their strength. Suddenly, 6 terrifying attacks gathered together and blasted towards the large palm print. Suppress! There was a glint in Lu Ming's eyes and he shouted softly. Boom! The palm print collided with the attacks of the 6 geniuses. The force swept out and formed a terrifying shockwave that rushed in all directions. Not good! Below, the crowd's faces changed drastically and they fled in all directions. Bam! Bam! The force swept across the ground, creating a large crater. Bam! Then, there was a loud explosion. The joint attack of the 6 geniuses from the Decimo's sword sect was shattered by the palm print. The palm print did not stop and continued to press down. How could this be? Wu Kuei shouted. Chapter 260. Boom! With a deafening boom, the 6 geniuses of the Decimo's sword sect were directly smashed to the ground by the huge palm print. They crashed heavily into the ground, creating 6 large pits and filling the air with smoke and dust. In the distance, countless people stared blankly at this scene. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. They even forgot to breathe. They could only stare blankly with their eyes wide open. It was as if they wanted to engrave this scene in their hearts forever. This was because it was too shocking. Any one of the 6 geniuses of the Decimo's sword sect could defeat almost all the martial grandmasters in the Blazing Sun Empire. But now, the 6 of them were defeated by Lu Ming in a single palm strike. Even a fool would be able to see the difference between them. The remaining 3 geniuses of the Mystic Essence sword sect looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. It was as if they could not believe that there was such a genius in the world. Then, the disappointment in their eyes became stronger. Before coming to the imperial capital, they were arrogant and thought that they were the favored children of heaven and earth. They looked down on martial artists with ordinary bloodlines. They thought that no one in the world was stronger than them in a battle of the same level. But not long after coming to the imperial capital, they suffered a fatal blow. They were defeated by Wu Kuei alone. In front of Wu Kuei, they were no match at all. But such an opponent that they looked up to, together with 5 other geniuses who were stronger than Wu Kuei, was defeated by Lu Ming in a single move. This simply overturned their understanding of the world. The blow to them was too big. In the past, we dominated the Mystic Essence sword sect and thought that we were invincible. It turns out that we have been ignorant all this time. The only woman among the 3 sighed softly. The other 2's eyes flickered and then turned into sighs. No matter how strong you are, there will always be someone stronger. Only today did they truly understand this principle. In the sky, Lin Shui and the other golden-robed elders were also stunned. Amazing, really amazing. There is such a genius in the Star General Hall. Looking at his age, he is only in his 20s. A golden-robed elder sighed, full of envy. In fact, Lu Ming's actual age was not even 18 years old. It was just that he was wearing a disguise, so he looked like he was in his 20s. The second level of the Earth Realm Palm Art. Great success in the force of fire and minor success in the force of wind. His Jin Qi is incomparably dense. Genius, a true genius. Lin Shui's eyes sparkled. Even though he thought highly of Lu Ming before, he still couldn't help but sigh. Big Brother Tianyun is mighty. Big Brother Tianyun is invincible. Ming Peak came to his senses and shouted excitedly. When the dust settled, everyone saw 6 large pits on the ground. The 6 geniuses of the Decimo's sword faction were lying motionless in the pits, their bodies covered in blood. Even though he was still breathing and wasn't dead yet, there were many broken bones in his body. Without a month or two of recuperation, it would be impossible for him to make a full recovery. What genius! That's all you've got, Lu Ming said as he glanced at Wu Kuei and the rest. Wu Kuei and the others almost spat out another mouthful of blood. If it weren't for their severe injuries, they would have roared out loud. He was angry and regretful. During this period of time, they had defeated many geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect, Astral Hall, and Crimson Cloud Valley, pushing the reputation of the Decimo Sword faction to the peak. But now, the 6 of them were defeated by Lu Ming with a single palm strike. If this news spread, it would be a joke. It was definitely a huge blow to the reputation of the Decimo Sword faction. Their efforts during this period of time were equivalent to nothing under Lu Ming's palm strike. Ha ha, great! In the sky, a golden-robed elder laughed. Lu Ming glanced at Wu Kuei and the others indifferently and didn't make any more moves. He turned around and strode away. Myongcheng and the others quickly followed. Countless pairs of eyes followed Lu Ming and watched Lu Ming's back as he left. This was an arrogant, determined, and unyielding back view. In the sky, Lin Shui looked at Lu Ming's back and was shocked. In his eyes, Tianyun's back overlapped with the back of another young man. They were so similar. Lu Ming! Lin Shui whispered, his eyes shining. After a long time, it turned into a long sigh. This long sigh contained a trace of regret. Maybe my choice was wrong, Lin Shui sighed in his heart. In Lu Ming's room in the Astral Hall, Lu Ming sat cross-legged on the bed. Now my cultivation is very close to the 9th level of the Martial Master Realm. I have to break through as soon as possible. Then I can refine the blood-refining pill and improve the foundation of the 2nd bloodline to prepare for the awakening of the 2nd bloodline. Lu Ming thought to himself. Before the Emperor's birthday, Lu Ming had been in seclusion in the Earth Essence Cave for 3 months. In the first month, he had refined 100 monster cores and his cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level of the Martial Master Realm. In the next 2 months, his cultivation had successfully broken through to the 8th level of the Martial Master Realm. In the last month, he had refined another 100 monster cores of the 9th level of the 3rd level of the Martial Master Realm, and reached the peak of the 8th level of the Martial Master Realm. With his current cultivation, the 2nd level of the 3 Dao Palms, and the fire force that had broken through to the greater success, it was normal for him to defeat Wu Kuei and the others with 1 palm. He did not place the matter of defeating Wu Kuei and the others in his heart. In his opinion, it was an insignificant matter. His current goal was to break through to the 9th layer Martial Grandmaster as soon as possible, and then break through to the Martial Ancestor Realm. Immediately, Lu Ming began to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. At this time, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. This was because he felt a terrifying murderous intent shrouding him. At the same time, an extremely dangerous feeling arose, causing his heart to tremble slightly and his hair to stand on end. Oh no! There was no time to think. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming soared to the sky and dashed toward the ceiling. Chi! At this time, a terrifying sound broke through the air. 100-meter long, extremely bright sword light slashed toward Lu Ming's dorm room. Boom! Lu Ming's dorm room, including the other rooms, suddenly exploded. Gravel and wood chips flew in all directions. The whole floor was split in half. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed to the sky from the broken wood. Tianyun, die! With a cold bellow, Lu Ming saw 2 young men walking in the air toward him. Chi! One of the young men in a yellow robe slashed with his sword. Another terrifying sword light slashed toward Lu Ming. The speed of the sword light was unbelievably fast. In an instant, it had arrived in front of Lu Ming. Ancient shield! Lu Ming let out a low roar. 4 ancient shields condensed in front of him in succession. 4 shields were stacked in front of Lu Ming, blocking him. Boom! The sword light slashed on the shields, causing them to shake violently. Then, the first shield exploded, followed by the second, the third. In just a breath's time, all 4 shields had exploded. However, In just a breath's time, Lu Ming's bloodline erupted. A powerful devouring force covered his body. At the same time, he frantically retreated and took out the demon-suppressing spear to block in front of him. Clang! Chapter 261. Lu Ming's figure descended rapidly. When he was about to hit the ground, his body burst out with a burst of chi as he stomped heavily on the ground, causing his body to continue to drift backward. Trying to escape? Do you think you can escape today? The yellow-robed young man in the sky yelled coldly. He was extremely furious. Despite his cultivation of the peak second-layer martial ancestor realm, coupled with the fact that he had failed to kill Lu Ming with 2 consecutive attacks, he felt extremely humiliated. Die! The yellow-robed young man held his sword with both hands and lashed out. A terrifying sword ray that was a few hundred meters long tore through the air and instantly approached Lu Ming. Senior Brother Huang, let me help you! Beside the yellow-robed young man was a white-robed young man. At that moment, he drew his sword out of its sheath and stabbed forward. A peerlessly sharp sword chi penetrated Lu Ming's body. At that instant, Lu Ming's eyelids twitched as if he was facing the Grim Reaper. Block, block! Lu Ming's eyes turned red as he circulated his chi to the maximum. 4 ancient shields appeared in front of him to block the attack. Human Dao Palm! Lu Ming lashed out with his palm and executed the human Dao Palm. A giant palm print appeared in front of him and blasted forward with the force of wind and fire. Boom! A deafening explosion occurred, causing the entire Star General Hall to tremble violently. Figures screamed as they rushed out of the dormitories and fled in all directions. The human Dao Palm and the ancient shields that Lu Ming had executed were shattered into pieces as the terrifying force landed on Lu Ming's body. Bang! Lu Ming was sent flying backward like a cannonball, crashing through 2 dormitory buildings and flying a few hundred meters away. Lu Ming supported himself with his spear, leaving a deep mark on the ground before he came to a stop. His body shuddered as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Still not dead? In the sky, the 2 young men were astounded. With their cultivation and combat strength, even a first-layer martial ancestor realm expert would be killed with a single slash. However, Lu Ming had managed to block the attack and was only injured, not dead. This was too shocking. Kill! The 2 young men's killing intent burst forth. Their eyes flashed with cold lightning as they charged towards Lu Ming. Stop! With a few loud roars, a few streams of light broke through the air and arrived at the top of the dormitory in an instant. They were the elders of the General Hall. Scram! The yellow-robed young man and the white-robed young man were incomparably domineering. They slashed out with their battle swords, and sword chi soared into the sky. Bang! Bang! The 3 elders of the Star General Hall were no match for him, and were sent flying several hundred meters away. Stop! Your Decimo Sword faction has gone too far. You've openly killed a student of my Astral General Hall. Let's see how your Decimo Sword faction will explain this to the royal family. An elder roared as he looked anxiously at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was a peerless genius of the Star General Hall. He was the hope of the future. Nothing could happen to him. However, the 2 young men of the Decimo Sword faction were gold-level disciples of the Decimo Sword faction. Their cultivation had reached the peak of the second-layer martial ancestor realm, and they were also peerless geniuses. Their combat strength was comparable to a third-layer martial ancestor realm. Among the 3 of them, the most powerful one was in the second-layer martial ancestor realm, while the other 2 were only in the first-layer martial ancestor realm. They were no match for Lu Ming. Explain? Why should the Decimo Sword faction deal with the royal family? What a joke. Tianyun has been going against the Decimo Sword faction, and has killed many geniuses of the Decimo Sword faction. He deserves to die. Scram now or all of you will die. The yellow-robed young man roared in an overbearing manner. The 3 elders of the General Hall had ugly looks on their faces, but they stood firmly in front of Lu Ming. Pfft! Lu Ming spat out another mouthful of blood. He supported himself with his spear and stood straight as he looked at the sky. They were indeed disciples of the Decimo Sword faction. It seemed that the Decimo Sword faction had been forced into a corner, and had sent their gold-level disciples to attack the General Hall. Then, he looked in the direction of the dormitory. It was in ruins and screams of agony could be heard continuously. Lu Ming had managed to dodge the first attack, but the others did not have the strength to do so. At least 10 people had died under that attack and many more were injured. Fortunately, Ming Peak had been staying at Myeongcheng's place during this period of time. Otherwise, he would have been in danger. Damn it! Lu Ming gripped the spear shaft tightly and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Senior Brother Huang, why are you talking so much nonsense? Just kill them. The white-robed young man was even colder, and his gaze was as sharp as a sword. He took a step forward and charged forward. Hold on, the elites will be here soon. One of the elders roared angrily and charged forward with all his might. The other 2 elders did the same, but they were no match for the white-robed young man. After more than 10 moves, they were injured and one of the elders in the first-layer martial ancestor realm even lost an arm. You overestimate yourselves. The yellow-robed young man sneered with disdain. How dare you! Suddenly, there was a loud roar and a snow-white saber light slashed from afar. It tore through the void and arrived in an instant. Oh no, 4th-layer martial ancestor realm. The 2 young men's expressions changed and they each slashed out with their swords. However, they were swept by the saber light and were sent flying over 1,000 meters away. Whoosh! In the sky, several streams of light arrived in an instant. There were a total of 3 people, 2 elders and 1 young man. Huaqi the young man was Huaqi. He was enveloped by the genuine qi of the elder, which was why he could walk in the air. I'm here. Let's see who can kill Tianyan. Huaqi's gaze was like lightning as he stared at the 2 young men from the Decimo Sword sect. 8th Prince, Tianyan has been going against the Decimo Sword sect and he's trying to destroy the relationship between the Decimo Sword sect and the Imperial family. He has ulterior motives and the Imperial family might be harmed by him. The yellow-robed young man said coldly. You don't have to worry about that. I'll investigate it. Now, get out of the Star General Hall! Huaqi shouted in a domineering manner. You! Huaqi, I'm giving face to the Imperial family by calling you the 8th Prince. Don't be so shameless! The yellow-robed young man said angrily. How dare Huaqi tell him to get out? He was a gold-ranked disciple of the Decimo Sword sect. There were very few gold-ranked disciples in the 5 major sects, and each of them was a famous figure in the Blazing Sun Empire. Their status was not much lower than those gold-robed elders. Because they had unlimited potential, they would have no problem becoming gold-robed elders in the future. Now, Huaqi dared to scold them. So what if he was the 8th Prince? Their gazes were cold. If you don't get out, I'll make you get out. Let me tell you, the Imperial capital is the Imperial capital of the Imperial family after all. Huaqi shouted coldly. Beside him, the 2 elders burst out with powerful auras. One of them was at the 3rd-layer martial ancestor realm, while the other was at the 4th-layer martial ancestor realm. The yellow-robed young man and the white-robed young man looked fearful. If they were at the 3rd-layer martial ancestor realm, they could still fight. However, they were no match for the 4th-layer martial ancestor realm even if they worked together. Good. 8th Prince, let's wait and see. The yellow-robed young man said the word good 3 times in a row, but his voice was extremely gloomy. He then looked at Lu Ming and said, Tianyan, if you're capable, don't leave the Star General Hall for the rest of your life. We'll wait for you outside the Star General Hall and see how long the Imperial family can protect you. Chapter 262. Looking at the sky, Lu Ming looked calm on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. Martial Ancestor Realm, I have to break through to Martial Ancestor Realm as soon as possible. I might seem invincible among Martial Grandmasters, but I'm still not strong enough to face Martial Ancestor Realm experts. The day I break through to Martial Ancestor Realm will be the day you die. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent. Quickly save the injured and clean up the dormitory. The Star General Hall elder ordered his men. On the side, Hua Chi's eyes were also filled with killing intent and unwillingness. Someone had openly killed their way into the Star General Hall, destroyed several buildings, killed more than a dozen students, and injured many more. The men he brought with him had the strength to stop the culprit, but they could only watch helplessly as the culprit left. Such humiliation made Hua Chi's body tremble. After a while, Hua Chi took a deep breath and walked to Lu Ming's side. "Tianyun, how are your injuries?" "I'm fine." Lu Ming smiled. Although his injuries were not light, they were not fatal. He would recover soon. "I never thought that the 10 Direction Sword faction would dare to openly kill people in the Star General Hall. They're getting more and more lawless. In the past, I would have some scruples," Hua Chi said. "This time, I have to thank you," Lu Ming said. "Why are you thanking me?" "Lu Ming, I was looking for you for something today, but I didn't expect to run into the incident just now." "Oh? Why are you looking for me?" Lu Ming asked. "It's about your father," Hua Chi said softly. "My father?" Lu Ming was shocked. His eyes were filled with hope as he said with a trembling voice. "Could it be?" Hua Chi nodded and said, "Let's talk on the side." The two of them walked to a secluded area. "Lu Ming, I've found your father," Hua Chi said. "My father, where is he? Is he in the imperial capital?" Lu Ming asked in a trembling voice. Hua Chi shook his head and said, "He was originally in the imperial capital. He was imprisoned in an extremely secret place in the north of the imperial capital by the 10 Direction Sword sect. But 7 days ago, a group of unknown people suddenly attacked that secret place. Your father has already been taken away by that group of people." "What? Kidnapped by a group of unknown people?" Lu Ming was greatly shaken. "Do you know why those people kidnapped my father?" he asked. Hua Chi shook his head and said, "I don't know about that. However, we've already found out that group of people are currently rushing towards the desolate wasteland, and the members of the Decimo Sword sect are pursuing them with all their might." "Desolate wasteland, I'm going to save my father immediately." Lu Ming revealed an anxious expression. "Lu Ming, wait a moment. Don't be hasty. Don't forget that the disciples of the Decimo Sword faction are still waiting for you outside." Hua Chi shouted. Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Yes, to go to the desolate wasteland, he first had to deal with those 2 disciples of the Decimo Sword faction. "Lu Ming, I'll think of a way to lure those 2 disciples away. Also, my father has already sent 4 great experts to the desolate wasteland in secret." Speaking until here, a sword-shaped jade tablet appeared in Hua Chi's hand. He handed it to Lu Ming and said, "This is a 10,000-mile sound transmission talisman. The 4 great experts sent by my father also have a 10,000-mile sound transmission talisman. When you arrive at the desolate wasteland, you can use this to send a message to them. Within 10,000 miles, you'll be able to receive the other party's message." "Hua Chi, thank you." Lu Ming received it and thanked him sincerely. Hua Chi had really helped him a lot. "I've said that you don't need to thank me. You must be careful when you go," Hua Chi said. Lu Ming nodded and said with a smile, "Wait for me to come back and drink." "All right, I'll go lure away those 2 from the 10 Direction Sword sect." Hua Chi nodded and led the 2 old men out of the Star General Hall in a flash. About half an hour later, Hua Chi's figure appeared and said, "Lu Ming, you can go now." Lu Ming nodded and took out a black robe and a bamboo hat. His figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming left the Star General Hall and walked along some small streets towards the north. After passing through 7 or 8 streets, he didn't see any disciples of the 10,000-mile sword sect chasing after him. "Stop!" Just when Lu Ming let down his guard, a delicate shout sounded. Swoosh! There was a sound of something breaking through the air and a pretty figure appeared in front of Lu Ming. "Xie. Xian Yanqing." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the person in front of him with a dumbfounded expression. The girl in front of him was incomparably beautiful. She was wearing a short skirt, revealing a pair of slender and fair thighs. Her big eyes blinked as she stared at Lu Ming. If it wasn't Xian Yanqing, who else could it be? He had never imagined that he would run into Xian Yanqing here. Why did Xian Yanqing stop him? He had changed his appearance and was wearing a black robe and a bamboo hat. Xian Yanqing couldn't recognize him. Ahem, miss, may I know why you're blocking my way? Lu Ming coughed a few times and lowered his voice. He sounded like a burly man in his 30s. Lu Ming, what are you pretending for? I finally found you. Come, let's have a fight. The corner of Xian Yanqing's mouth rose slightly as he said disdainfully. Ah? Lu Ming was stunned. Xian Yanqing really recognized him. How was that possible? Did he reveal any flaws? But when he looked around, he didn't reveal any flaws. But why did Xian Yanqing insist that he was Lu Ming? Lu Ming took off his bamboo hat, revealing his disguised face, and said, Look, young lady, you really recognize the wrong person. Humph! Xian Yanqing's small lips curled up slightly, her disdain growing. Lu Ming, you're still pretending. No matter how you disguise yourself, I will be able to recognize you. No matter how you disguise yourself, you won't be able to change your scent. It just so happens that my nose is more special. As long as I smell someone, even if he turns into ashes, I will be able to recognize him. That works? Lu Ming was speechless. He had thought of everything, but he didn't expect this. Ha ha ha, Miss Xie, what a coincidence. I haven't seen you for a long time, and I miss you. Unfortunately, I have an urgent matter to attend to now. Please make way. Let's have a chat another day. Lu Ming laughed, revealing his original voice. Humph, Lu Ming, it's not easy to meet you. Don't even think about leaving. I said last time that if I see you again, I will ruthlessly trample you under my feet. Come, let's fight. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming unkindly. I said I don't have time now. If you want to fight, I will accompany you later. Lu Ming's voice sank. He had to rush to the desolate wilderness. How could he have time to fight with Xian Yanqing? I don't care. Don't even think about leaving today. Xian Yanqing was very rude and unreasonable. He blocked in front of Lu Ming. Get out of my way! Lu Ming coldly shouted. He pushed out a palm, and a powerful true qi gushed out, wanting to push Xian Yanqing away. But unexpectedly, Xian Yanqing's body moved slightly, and a powerful true qi gushed out, counteracting Lu Ming's true qi. So strong! Chapter 263. Xian Yanqing was also a little surprised. Apparently, Lu Ming's strength was also beyond her expectations. All right, you're quite strong. You're just in time to fight with me. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. You're crazy. I don't have time for you. Lu Ming snorted coldly. Then, he soared into the sky and ran away at top speed. Don't even think about leaving! Xian Yanqing shouted. She kicked her legs and chased after Lu Ming at top speed as if her body was weightless. Her speed was unbelievably fast. She was not slower than Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming was shocked. He used the high air steps to the extreme and walked hundreds of meters in the blink of an eye. Soon, he was out of the imperial city and heading northwest. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind him. She could also walk in the air for a short time. This bitch is really crazy. Forget it. Follow me if you want. Lu Ming was speechless. He let her follow him. He used his body movement technique and moved forward at top speed. The desolate wilderness was at the northwest border of the Burning Sun Empire. It was a desolate wilderness that spanned across 3 empires. It was the border of the 3 empires. To the north was the Yin Moon Empire. To the northwest was the Blood Zhao Empire, a middle-level empire. Empires were divided into low-level, middle-level, high-level, and super-level empires according to their strength. The Burning Sun Empire and the Yin Moon Empire were all low-level empires. Emperor Yun had 36 empires. 8 of them were middle-level empires. The rest were all low-level empires. The middle-level empires were at least 10 times stronger than the low-level empires. They could not be compared. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, it would take him 4 or 5 days to reach the desolate wilderness. After 1 day and 1 night, Lu Ming's genuine she was exhausted. He stopped to meditate and recover. Not far behind him, Xian Yanqing was also panting and sweating. She stopped and sat cross-legged on the ground. She's really persistent. Lu Ming was speechless. 3 hours later, Lu Ming's Truchi had completely recovered, and he saw Xian Yanqing also stand up. How about this? I really have something urgent to do. Once I'm done here, I'll fight you, Lu Ming said. Humph, who knows where you'll run off to? You treated me like that back then. I said that I'll definitely trample you under my feet. I'll definitely do what I said. Don't even think about running away. I'll follow you. When you're done with your business, I'll teach you a lesson. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth. Lu Ming was speechless. Wasn't this girl's temper a little too strange? Forget it, forget it. Follow me if you want. Lu Ming was speechless. Then, Lu Ming continued on his way with Xian Yanqing following beside him. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. The desolate wasteland was already in sight. He stood on top of a mountain and gazed into the distance. The desolate wasteland was incomparably vast. It was like a gigantic beast lying down in front of them. The two of them took a step forward and headed towards the desolate wasteland. When they entered the desolate wasteland, they realized that the desolate wasteland was not completely desolate. They could see patches of trees and weeds. However, these trees and weeds did not have any leaves. They looked lifeless. The surroundings were completely silent. Not even the chirping of insects or birds could be heard. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not dare to be careless. The desolate wasteland was known for its danger. Roar! At this moment, the two of them saw a giant black tiger running through the desolate forest. This giant tiger had a powerful aura. It was actually a Class 2 LV3 demonic beast. Whoosh whoosh! At this moment, in front of the giant tiger, a black fog suddenly flew down from a leafless tree. The black fog coiled around the giant tiger, and then flew away, disappearing from the tree. Below, a tiger-shaped skeleton was left. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing felt their scalps go numb. They could clearly see that the black mist that flew out of the tree was actually a type of tiny ant. However, there were too many of them, and their power was terrifying. The Class 2 LV3 giant tiger did not even have the chance to scream before it turned into a pile of white bones. The desolate wasteland was indeed strange. They had to be extra careful. The two of them continued to move forward. Along the way, they were more than 300 miles into the desolate wasteland. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air was heard. 8 figures flashed and appeared in front of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The two of them paused and stopped. The Decimo Sword Sect is handling some matters here. We have temporarily requisitioned this area. Please go back. The leader of the group, a middle-aged man, said. His tone was unusually domineering. When did the desolate wasteland become the Decimo Sword Sect's territory? This is the first time I've heard of it. Lu Ming sneered. If I say it's ours, then it's ours. Kid, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, this place will be your burial ground. The middle-aged man's eyes turned cold, and his body emitted a faint, murderous intent. At this moment, Lu Ming did not wear his bamboo hat. These people from the Decimo Sword Sect had obviously never seen Lu Ming before and did not recognize him. Lu Ming glanced at the people from the Decimo Sword Sect. The leader of the group had an extremely strong aura and was in the martial ancestor realm. The other 7 people were all martial Grandmaster realm LV9 experts. Obviously, the Decimo Sword Sect had mobilized a large force to capture Lu Yutian. Okay, let's go! Suddenly, Lu Ming said and turned to leave. Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed. He did not say anything and followed Lu Ming. Behind them, the middle-aged man from the Decimo Sword Sect had a strong murderous intent in his eyes. These 2 people are suspicious. I'd rather kill them than let them go. Kill them! The middle-aged man waved his hand. Kill! Immediately, two martial Grandmaster Realm LV9 experts unsheathed their swords and charged at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing respectively. They were extremely fast and arrived behind the two in an instant. Their wide swords slashed down at their heads. However, at this moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing suddenly turned around. Lu Ming waved his hand and a long spear appeared. It directly pierced through the martial Grandmaster Realm LV9 expert who was charging at him. Xian Yanqing flicked his finger. With a whistling sound, the opponent's head suddenly flew high into the air and blood splattered everywhere. Lu Ming was slightly surprised. He could see that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had already reached the martial Grandmaster Realm LV9. It seemed that Xian Yanqing had some fortuitous encounter during this period of time. Otherwise, his cultivation could not have improved so quickly. It was because he had the spirit-devouring bloodline that his cultivation soared so quickly. However, Xian Yanqing did not have the spirit-devouring bloodline. It was really shocking that his cultivation breakthrough was not slower than his. "I knew that you would do this!" Lu Ming looked coldly at the remaining people of the Decimo Sword sect. In an instant the two experts were killed, causing the middle-aged man and the others to be stunned. Then, they roared furiously. "You dare to kill the disciples of my Decimo Sword sect? You're courting death. Kill them!" The middle-aged man emitted a terrifying aura and charged at Lu Ming. The remaining 5 martial Grandmaster Realm LV9 experts charged at Xian Yanqing. "Martial Grandmaster Realm LV1. Just nice to test my strength." Lu Ming's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He shook his long spear and charged at the other party. During this period of seclusion, he had gained a lot. His combat strength had increased rapidly, and he did not know what level he had reached. Previously, he had fought twice. The first time was with a martial artist at the peak of the martial Grandmaster Realm LV9. The other time, it was 2 geniuses at the peak of the martial Grandmaster Realm LV2. The first time was too weak, and the second time was too strong. It was not a good test for Lu Ming's combat strength. Chapter 264. A mere martial Grandmaster dares to fight with me? Die! The middle-aged martial ancestor sneered. In his opinion, Lu Ming was overestimating himself and courting death. Swish! The middle-aged martial ancestor's sword slashed towards Lu Ming's head. He wanted to cut off Lu Ming's head with one slash. One! Swish! Lu Ming's long spear trembled and pierced forward. A bright spear radiance pierced forward. The spear radiance clashed with the middle-aged martial ancestor's sword. The middle-aged martial ancestor's face instantly changed. Boom! An incomparably sharp and powerful force blasted towards the middle-aged martial ancestor realm master. The middle-aged martial ancestor realm master's body trembled violently as he frantically retreated. He slid back tens of meters in the forest and left a deep ravine in the ground. How can a martial Grand Master be so powerful? The middle-aged martial ancestor roared in his heart. So this is your strength? It's nothing much. Kill! Lu Ming raised his spear and charged towards the middle-aged martial ancestor. The long spear pierced out and a bright spear radiance burst out. The middle-aged martial ancestor tried his best, but he was still no match for Lin Fan. After 6 moves he was swept by Lu Ming's spear and flew out screaming. Swish! Lu Ming chased after him and smashed down with his long spear. Bang! The middle-aged martial ancestor screamed again as his body was smashed into the ground, creating a large pit. He lay in the pit and spat out blood continuously. He could not move at all. A figure flashed and Xian Yanqing appeared beside him. Obviously, the 5 martial Grand Masters had been dealt with by her. The middle-aged martial ancestor lay in the pit and looked at the 2 youths with horror in his eyes. Where did this young man come from? He was too terrifying. His battle prowess was so strong that it was simply shocking. Could they be geniuses from the Blood Zhao Empire? The middle-aged martial ancestor thought. In the Burning Sun Empire, he had never heard of such a powerful martial Grand Master. It would be normal for such a genius to appear in a medium-sized empire like the Blood Zhao Empire. Tell me, what's the situation of the person you're chasing? Where is he? Lu Ming stared coldly at the middle-aged Wu Zong and asked coldly. Could it be that you're also after the martial emperor's treasures key? Don't even think about it. Let me tell you, my 10-direction sword faction's Chiu Chang Kong is right in front. You, a mere martial grand master, want to interfere? You're really courting death. The middle-aged Wu Zong shouted angrily. The secret key to the martial emperor's treasure? And Chiu Chang Kong is also in front? Lu Ming's expression changed. He looked a little serious and doubtful. The leader of the 6 heroes, Chiu Chang Kong, was actually chasing after his father. And the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure? Could it be related to the martial emperor? Thinking of this, Lu Ming's heart trembled. Above martial great masters were martial kings. They were known as kings and were extremely powerful. Whether or not there was a martial king in the vast Burning Sun Empire was still a question. Even an overlord like Lin Shui had not reached the martial king realm. However, when a martial king was compared to a martial emperor, the difference was like heaven and earth. No, it was even greater. There was simply no comparison. Above the martial king realm, there was still the spirit god realm, the 3 realms. Above the 3 realms was the martial emperor realm. A martial emperor could shatter the heavens and the earth with a flick of his finger. He was the strongest person in the divine wilderness continent, and was invincible. As for whether there were any higher realms above the martial emperor realm, there were legends, but they had always been legends. Could the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure be related to the martial emperor? Lu Ming could not help but be shocked. Lu Ming did not notice that when Xian Yanqing heard about the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure, his eyes were filled with astonishment. So I advise you to let me go quickly. I can hide what happened today. Otherwise, you will end up in a miserable state. The middle-aged martial great master threatened. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he immediately let out a miserable shriek as Lu Ming's spear pierced through his thigh. So much nonsense. Speak, where are you now? Did you catch the person you were chasing? Lu Ming asked coldly. The middle-aged martial great master broke out in cold sweat as he shrieked. I'll speak, please don't kill me. He knew that he had met a tough opponent today and could only beg for mercy. Speak! Lu Ming shouted coldly. From here, the experts from the Eden Moon Empire kidnapped the person we were chasing. Our men are about to catch up with them. The middle-aged martial great master shouted. Eden Moon Empire? Lu Ming frowned as he felt that the situation was getting more and more complicated. He continued to ask, How many experts did you bring this time? Apart from Chiu Chang Kong, there are 7 martial great masters. Apart from me, there are 6 others and over 100 martial grand masters. The middle-aged martial great master answered honestly. I've already said what I should say. Please let me go. I will not tell anyone about what happened today. The middle-aged martial great master begged. However, there was a murderous look in his eyes as he thought to himself. As long as Lu Ming let him go, he would inform Chiu Chang Kong and kill Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Let you go! The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. There was a flash of murderous intent as the long spear pierced out. Don't! The middle-aged martial great master shouted, but in the next moment, his voice stopped abruptly as his heart was crushed by Lu Ming's spear. I won't leave any hidden dangers behind. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Lu Ming, your combat strength is not bad. I'm looking forward to trampling you under my feet. Xian Yanqing sized up Lu Ming carefully as his eyes burned with passion. Lu Ming shuddered and quickly changed the topic. You don't want the spoils of war. I want them. After speaking, Lu Ming searched the bodies of the Shifang Sword sect members. At the same time, he controlled the soul-devouring bloodline and secretly devoured their blood essence. There was a martial great master realm first stage martial great master's blood essence. Lu Ming did not want to miss it. After the previous battle, Lu Ming had a better understanding of his combat strength. He was roughly at the peak of the martial great master realm. That middle-aged man was only at the early stage of the martial great master realm. Therefore, he was defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves due to his carelessness. However, such combat strength was far from enough. Chiu Chong Kong was the leader of the 6 heroes and his combat strength was absolutely terrifying. Moreover, there were other martial great masters. It would be difficult to save his father. He had to continuously improve his strength. Soon, the blood essence of the 8 Shifang Sword Sect disciples were all devoured by Lu Ming. 8 storage rings appeared in his hand. Hey, you can't take the storage rings for yourself. I want that martial great master's storage ring, Xian Yanqing shouted. Why should I? Lu Ming did not give it to him. No, I'm taking it. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth. All right, but I want to cultivate for a while. Guard me, Lu Ming said. You. All right. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth and finally agreed. The two of them left and stopped in a valley more than 50 miles away. Lu Ming wanted to refine the blood essence and break through to the martial great master realm. Xian Yanqing snorted and unwillingly stood guard for Lu Ming at the entrance of the valley. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated the true dragon fighting art. Rumble! The blood essence of a martial great master realm first stage martial great master was too rich. It was constantly converted into vigorous energy, and was refined by Lu Ming into genuine qi. Chapter 265. About 2 hours later, there was a booming sound coming from Lu Ming's body. A powerful aura burst out, but it was soon restrained. 9th level martial master, breakthrough. Not far away, Xian Yanqing widened her eyes in shock. He broke through just like that. To be honest, when she first saw Lu Ming, she was shocked because Lu Ming's cultivation speed was too fast. Back in the Dongi tribe's ancestral secret realm, Lu Ming's cultivation was 1 level lower than hers. He was only a 2nd level martial master. It had only been half a year, but Lu Ming's cultivation had risen to a terrifying level. If she had not had a fortuitous encounter in the past 6 months, she would have been surpassed by Lu Ming. Just now, Lu Ming had broken through again. She did not know about the magic of Lu Ming's spirit-devouring bloodline, so she was naturally shocked. All right, let's go! Lu Ming smiled and got up to walk forward. Xian Yanqing's beautiful eyes stared at Lu Ming as if she wanted to see through him. The two of them walked toward the depths of the desolate wilderness. During this time, Lu Ming used the 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman to send a message to the experts of the imperial family, and soon received a response. However, Lu Ming did not meet up with the experts of the imperial family. Instead, he walked separately. If they gathered together, they would be too big of a target. At this time, in a desolate forest in the depths of the desolate wilderness, with a flash of light, more than a dozen figures in black robes appeared. Among these people, there were some old men and some middle-aged men. Among them, there was only a young man in his 20s. However, everyone seemed to follow the young man's lead. Damn it, the 10 Directions Sword Sect is really like a haunting ghost, biting and not letting go like a dog, a middle-aged man said unhappily. Humph, if it weren't for this cripple, how could the Shifang Sword Sect catch up with us? Another man with a scar on his face said coldly as he looked at another person. This person had messy hair that reached his waist. His face was full of beard that hung down to his chest. His hair and beard were like a bird's nest. No one knew how long it had been since he washed them. He was wearing a tattered shirt that was stained with blood. His eyes were empty and lifeless as he stared blankly at the sky, completely ignoring the scarred man. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of the scarred man when he saw this. He shouted in a low voice, Lu Yuntian, don't play dumb in front of us. Quickly hand over the Martial Monarch's key and tell us the whereabouts of the Martial Monarch's treasure. Otherwise, I'll kill you. This dirty and disheveled man was Lu Ming's father, Lu Yuntian, who had disappeared for more than 8 years. At this time, Lu Yuntian's eyes flickered as if he had come back to his senses. He looked at the scar-faced man with disdain and said, Fine, then hurry up and kill me. You think I don't dare? Damn it, when we return to the Dark Moon Empire, I will torture you. Let's see if you still want to talk or not, the scarred man roared. I've been in the 10 Directions Sword sect for more than 8 years. What methods have I not experienced? I didn't even say anything. Do you think you can do it? Lu Yuntian's disdain deepened. Damn it! The scar-faced man was so angry that the muscles on his face trembled, causing the scar on his face to tremble continuously. He couldn't wait to kill Lu Yuntian, but Lu Yuntian had too many secrets that they had to know. They took the risk to kidnap Lu Yuntian for those secrets. All right, let's bring him back and slowly investigate. The most important thing now is to get rid of the 10 Directions Sword sect and Qiu Changkong's pursuit. A white-haired old man waved his hand and said. The scar-faced man smiled viciously at Lu Yuntian and didn't say anything else. So what if they catch up? I want to fight with Qiu Changkong. I want to see how Qiu Changkong is ranked on the Emperor leaderboard. The only young man sneered coldly. Third Prince, don't be careless. The Emperor leaderboard is a list of the strongest young people in the 36 countries. There are only 36 people on it. Qiu Changkong is ranked 36th. His strength is absolutely terrifying. Don't underestimate him, the white-haired old man exhorted. However, the young man just smiled and didn't seem to care too much. Let's leave here quickly, the white-haired old man said. Leave? Do you think we can leave now? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from the sky. A ray of light took the lead and charged towards them. Behind him, there were 6 other rays of light. The white-haired old man's expression changed and he shouted in horror. Qiu Changkong, this is bad. Run! No one can leave. A cold voice came from the ray of light in front. Whoosh! A dazzling sword light flew out and slashed towards the people from the Yin Moon Empire. Qiu Changkong, I'll fight with you. The third prince of the Yin Moon Empire shouted and waved his hand. A circular weapon that looked like a bright moon appeared. The circular wheel spun and slashed out a terrifying blade light towards the sword chi. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the ground was swept by the sharp light of the 2 people. 100-meter-long ravine appeared. Whoosh! The space moved and a slender figure appeared in the sky. He was 25 or 26 years old. His face was cold and handsome like a peerless sword. His swordsman robe fluttered in the wind. This was Qiu Changkong, the leader of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire. He was a famous genius even in the Cloud Emperor mountain range and was listed on the Cloud Emperor board. In Jiuyo, it's you. Qiu Changkong looked around and said. Haha, Qiu Changkong, you want to keep the great opportunity for yourself? I, In Jiuyo, will not allow it. The third prince of the Yin Moon Empire, In Jiuyo, laughed. How dare you touch my things? Die! As soon as Qiu Changkong said the word die, he attacked. A dazzling sword chi shot up to the sky. He merged with the sword chi and charged towards Yin Jiuyo. Qiu Changkong, I'd like to see how you can be listed on the Cloud Emperor board. Yin Jiuyo roared and fought with Qiu Changkong. Their combat strength was terrifying and they were much stronger than Feng Wuji and the others. Their battle was earth-shattering and the clouds changed color. Boom! Boom! The 2 of them fought in the sky like 2 streams of light. In the blink of an eye, the battle had reached the depths of the desolate wilderness and disappeared. Kill! At that moment, the martial grandmasters of the Shifang Sword sect arrived and charged towards the people of the Yin Moon Empire. The scene fell into a chaotic battle. Soon, the martial grandmasters of the Shifang Sword sect arrived and the scene became even more chaotic. Be careful! Don't kill Lu Yuntian! An elder of the Shifang Sword sect shouted. The purpose of the battle was to fight for Lu Yuntian. Therefore, they avoided Lu Yuntian during the battle as they were afraid that they would kill him by accident, and everything would be in vain. The battle between the 2 parties was extremely intense, but they ignored Lu Yuntian. A few kilometers away, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were rushing with all their might. Suddenly, the 2 of them heard a loud explosion in front of them. Someone is fighting. Has the Shifang Sword sect caught up with my father? Let's go! Chapter 266. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. The two of them covered a distance of a few miles in the blink of an eye. 1,000 meters away from the battlefield, the two of them hid in a pile of rocks and watched from afar. Lu Ming saw the figure with messy hair at first glance. "Father!" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Although they had not seen each other for more than 8 years and Lu Yuntian's hair and beard were messy and his clothes were tattered, Lu Ming recognized him at first glance. This man was his father, Lu Yuntian. Damn Shifang sword sect! How dare they torture my father like this? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. How can I save my father? Lu Ming began to think. Shifang sword sect and Yin Moon Empire had more than a dozen martial ancestor realm experts in total. There were even 2 4th-level martial ancestor realm experts who were fighting fiercely. It was impossible to save Lu Yuntian with so many experts. It was impossible to get close. Once they got close, they would be discovered. Even if they could get close, they would not be able to take Lu Yuntian away quietly. Once they were discovered, they would be hunted down by both parties. Facing such a powerful force, they would only die. What should I do? Lu Ming thought anxiously. After more than 8 years, he finally found his father. He was not far away, but he could not save him. At this moment, Lu Ming hated himself. He hated himself for being too weak. I can save your father. Suddenly, Xian Yanqing whispered beside him. What? You can save my father? Really? Lu Ming was shocked and asked. Of course. It's up to you to believe it or not. Forget it. Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. No, I believe you. I believe you. If you can really save my father, I'll do whatever you want. Lu Ming said sincerely. Humph, don't think too much. I'm saving your father to prevent you from rushing out on impulse and dying here. How can I fulfill my promise and trample you under my feet? Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly as he rubbed his nose. How do you want to save my father? As you can see, once they find out that my father has been rescued, they will definitely stop fighting and pursue us with all their might. I know a secret technique called the Heavenly Demon Illusory Technique. It can condense an illusory figure that is exactly the same as your father. If I leave it there, I can secretly replace it and save your father. Xian Yanqing explained. There's actually such a mysterious secret technique. Lu Ming exclaimed. It's just a small trick. You're the one who's ignorant. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with disdain. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of complacency. Wait for me here. Before Lu Ming could react, Xian Yanqing's figure floated forward like a ghost. A layer of black mist spread out from her body. In the darkness of the night, it was impossible to distinguish her. Soon, Xian Yanqing was near Lu Yuntian. At this moment, Lu Ming's heartbeat quickened, almost jumping to his throat. In the end, Xian Yanqing silently appeared behind Lu Yuntian. A layer of black mist spread out towards Lu Yuntian. The black mist moved and Lu Yuntian's figure disappeared without a trace. But in the next moment, Lu Yuntian reappeared in the same position. However, no one noticed that Lu Yuntian, who appeared later, had a dazed look in his eyes. Xian Yanqing floated towards Lu Ming at extreme speed. In 7 to 8 breaths, he reached Lu Ming's side. Leave quickly. My Heavenly Demon Illusory Technique can only last for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, it will disappear and the other party will find out. Xian Yanqing's voice sounded. The black mist dissipated, revealing Xian Yanqing and another figure. If it wasn't Lu Yuntian, who else could it be? Let's go! Lu Ming suppressed the excitement in his heart. He pulled Lu Yuntian and executed the high air steps. Together with Xian Yanqing, they rushed out of the desolate forest at extreme speed. Now was not the time to catch up. They had to leave this place first. At the same time, Lu Ming used the 10,000 miles sound transmission talisman to send a message to the experts of the imperial family. The two of them moved extremely quickly. In the darkness of the night, their figures were almost invisible to the naked eye. Half an hour later, the two of them were 200 miles away. They stopped at a hidden mountain stream. Lu Ming had accidentally discovered this mountain stream when he came here. It was extremely hidden. The message he sent to the experts of the imperial family was to meet here. After all, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were not martial ancestors. They could not fly. If they carried Lu Yuntian, it would not be long before the martial ancestors of the Ten Direction Sword faction caught up with them. They could only rescue Lu Yuntian with the help of the imperial family. The two of you are so young. Could it be that you are also here for the martial royal key? I advise the two of you to give up. Chiu Changkong did everything he could and did not succeed. The same goes for the two of you. At this moment, Lu Yutian glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and said indifferently. However, Xian Yanqing did not say anything. Lu Ming did not say anything either. They only stared blankly at Lu Yutian. Slowly, tears welled up in the corners of Lu Ming's eyes. He called out softly, "Father!" Lu Yutian's body suddenly trembled. His originally lifeless eyes suddenly lit up. He stared at Lu Ming and said, "You! What did you call me?" "Father, I am Ming'er." "Father!" Lu Ming reached out and wiped his face, revealing his delicate and handsome face. He had returned to his original appearance. Looking at Lu Ming's face, Lu Yuntian's body trembled violently. More than 8 years ago, Lu Ming was less than 10 years old. In addition, he was frail and sickly. His appearance and demeanor were very different from now. However, that kind of outline would not change. Also, that kind of feeling between father and son would not disappear. Lu Yutian immediately recognized Lu Ming. Ming'er, it's really you. It's really you. I'm not dreaming, right?" Lu Yutian stared at Lu Ming. His voice trembled as he kept muttering. His eyes were filled with joy and disbelief. Even in his dreams, he would never have thought that he would meet Lu Ming here. "Father, it's me. Ming'er is here to save you." Lu Ming felt the tip of his nose tingle as tears welled up in his eyes. "Haha, Ming'er, the heavens have eyes. I never thought that I would be able to meet Ming'er in my lifetime. I can die without regrets." Lu Yutian sighed as tears flowed down his face. A man did not cry easily. That was only when he was sad. "Ming'er, you've grown so big in the blink of an eye. Let me take a good look at you." Lu Yuntian placed his hands on Lu Ming's shoulders and looked at him carefully. "Ming'er, you're finally able to cultivate, and you've even become an incredible expert." Lu Yuntian's face was full of smiles. "Father, your cultivation?" At this moment, Lu Ming realized that there was not a single trace of true qi in Lu Yuntian's body. His body was weak and his vitality was lacking. He was even weaker than an ordinary person. "My cultivation has long been crippled." Lu Yutian smiled. "Crippled? Who did it?" "Father, was it done by the Shifang Sword sect?" Damn it! Lu Ming's eyes were red as he exuded a murderous aura. "Ming'er, don't be rash. It's already a blessing that we can meet. The Shifang Sword sect is too strong. Let's just forget about this matter," Lu Yutian said. However, Lu Ming's heart was twitching. He knew that Lu Yutian was worried about his safety. He was afraid that he would act rashly and go against the Shifang Sword sect. "Father, who is it? Is it the entire Shifang Sword sect or someone else? Who is the mastermind?" Chapter 267. Lu Yutian wanted to let it go, but he couldn't. No matter who it was, he would take revenge 10 times or 100 times over. If he didn't take revenge, was he still a man? If he wanted to hurt Lu Yutian, he would end up 10 times or 100 times worse than Lu Yutian. Lu Yutian pondered for a moment and said, "Ming'er, I can tell you, but you must not be impulsive. This person is not someone you can defeat. Promise me and I will tell you." "Father, I promise you. I will not throw my life away before I am strong enough," Lu Ming said. "All right, I will tell you. This person is..." At that moment, whoosh, whoosh, there was a sound of something breaking through the air. 4 figures rushed in from the mountain stream. The 4 of them were old men with white hair. Their auras were extremely strong and they were all experts above the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes moved and a 1,000 miles voice transmission talisman appeared in his hand. One of the short and fat old men in gray linen clothes smiled and a 1,000 miles voice transmission talisman appeared in his hand. Young Master Tianyun, I have heard a lot about you. I didn't expect you to be able to save your father under Chiu Changkong's nose. I am impressed. The short and fat old man cupped his fists. Senior, you are too polite. We were just lucky. This time, we will have to trouble you to send us back to the imperial capital. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, You are welcome. It is a small matter. Let's not delay any longer. We should leave as soon as possible. If the Shifang Sword faction finds us here, we will be in trouble. The short and fat old man said. Lu Ming nodded. At that moment, whoosh, whoosh. There was a sound of something breaking through the air in the distance. A few figures streaked across the sky and disappeared in an instant. Lu Ming saw clearly that those figures were the martial ancestor realm experts of the Shifang Sword faction. The Shifang Sword faction is so fast. The short and fat old man's face changed drastically. Lu Ming's face turned gloomy. The mountain stream was very hidden and was surrounded by trees and weeds. Hence, the Shifang Sword faction did not discover them earlier. However, they would definitely discover them after some time. What should we do? If we go out like this, we will definitely be discovered. If Chiu Changkong arrives, we will not be his match. Another old man said with a solemn expression. Seniors, please take Mingner and the others away. Chiu Changkong and the others want me. I'll lure them away, said Lu Yuntian. No, father. It was not easy to save you. How could I let you fall into the hands of Chiu Changkong and the others? Lu Ming said firmly. Even if he had to die, he wouldn't let Lu Yuntian fall into the hands of the Decimo Sword sect and suffer all kinds of torture. With a wave of his hand, Lu Yuntian's tattered clothes fell into Lu Ming's hands. Lu Yuntian's expression changed greatly as he said, Ming'er, don't! The expressions of the others also changed. Seniors, I will go and distract them. You take my father back to the imperial city and hand him over to His Highness the 8th Prince, Lu Ming said to the elders. Ming'er, this definitely won't do. I don't agree. Lu Yuntian let out a low growl. Lu Ming smiled and said, Father, don't worry. Ming'er will be fine. Let's meet again in the imperial capital. Wait a minute, I'll go with you. On the side, Xian Yanqing suddenly said, You'll go with me? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing. Humph, don't think too much. I'm just afraid that if you die, I won't be able to fulfill my promise. Also, how are you going to distract the people of the Decimo Sword sect alone? Don't forget that your father's cultivation has been destroyed. If you run too fast, you will be exposed. I'll take you with me. Xian Yanqing curled his lips. Okay, let's do that. I owe you a favor, Lu Ming said. TSK, who wants your favor? Xian Yanqing curled his lips in disdain. Father, take care! After saying that, Lu Ming was about to rush out. Ming'er, no, come back! Lu Yuntian growled. However, he had lost his cultivation. How could he catch up with Lu Ming? In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's figures were out of the mountain stream. Out of the mountain stream, Lu Ming put on Lu Yuntian's clothes. I'll take you with me. Xian Yanqing pulled Lu Ming and rushed toward the depths of the desolate wilderness. In order to distract the people of the Decimo Sword sect, they naturally had to go to the depths of the desolate wilderness so that Lu Yuntian and the others could escape smoothly. Several miles later. Over here, I see them. A loud roar sounded in the desolate wilderness. Whoosh! Whoosh! A few figures were chasing after Lu Ming, and the rest at high speed. They were several martial artists of the 9th level of the martial master realm. Let's run together! Lu Ming pretended to be pulled by Xian Yanqing. In fact, he was using his movement technique. The two of them ran toward the depths of the desolate wilderness like a gust of wind. The martial artists of the 9th level of the martial master realm behind them could not catch up at all. In the blink of an eye, Dozens of miles had passed. Who dares to rob the people of the Decimo's sword sect? You're courting death! At this moment, there was an explosion in the sky. A martial arts grandmaster flew in the air and chased after them. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ignored him. They gritted their teeth and ran. In this way, they ran for hundreds of miles. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, there were 6 figures in the sky. They were the 6 martial arts grandmasters of the Decimo's sword sect. At this moment, they were getting closer and closer to Lu Ming and the others. No matter how fast their movement techniques were, they were still a little slower than flying in the air. Slowly, they were caught up. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sword Chi slashed toward Lu Ming and the others. The 2 of them flashed and dodged. A moment later, more than 100 miles passed in the blink of an eye. Die! At this moment, an old man was already approaching Lu Ming and the others. The old man's aura was extremely dense. He was the 4th-level martial arts grandmaster from the Decimo's sword sect. His face was cold. When he swung his sword, dozens of dazzling sword chi shot out. It completely enveloped the 2 of them. Oh no, block it! Lu Ming growled. 4 ancient shields appeared behind him. Xian Yanqing also shouted and slapped out with her palm. Numerous black lotuses appeared behind her to block the attack. Bam! Bam! The ancient shields and the black lotuses exploded one after another. Dense energy shot out in all directions. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing used this energy to rush forward more than 1,000 meters. You're not Lu Yutian. We've been fooled. The old man let out an earth-shattering roar. Ha! It's too late now. My men have already brought Lu Yutian out of the lonely wilderness. You bunch of idiots! Lu Ming laughed. Damn it! Lu Yutian ran away. Then I'll kill you! The old man roared and continued to chase after Lu Ming and the others. After chasing for a while, he swung his sword again. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing used the same trick again. They used the shield and the black lotuses to block and borrow the energy to rush forward. The old man in the sky was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At the same time, he was shocked. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were clearly only 9th-level martial grandmasters. Not only were they unbelievably fast, but their defensive abilities were also terrifyingly high. Although there was a distance between them, they could block his sword chi. This was already terrifying enough. 4th-level martial arts grandmaster is indeed powerful. Chapter 268. In fact, he and Xian Yanqing were both injured and bleeding from the corners of their mouths. The 2 of them gritted their teeth and ran forward. Soon, they ran for another few hundred miles. Oh no, the Blood Demon Cave is ahead! The elder from the Decimo's sword sect shouted. Stop! You'll die if you enter the Blood Demon Cave! Stop them and ask for Lu Yutian's whereabouts! The others from the Decimo's sword sect shouted. Not far ahead, there was a thick fog and a bloody mist. It was boundless. It was obvious that it was a place of great danger. Blood Demon Cave? Lu Ming frowned. He had never heard of it. He looked at Xian Yanqing and saw that she was also confused. Forget it. The people from the Decimo's sword sect seem to be afraid. The more dangerous the place, the easier it is to escape. Lu Ming decided to charge in. He did not stop at all and rushed toward the Blood Demon Cave. Damn it! Stop them! The elder from the Decimo's sword sect roared and slashed out sword chi with all his might. However, it only increased the speed of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Stay! Suddenly, an angry roar came from the sky. A glass-like sword light slashed from afar. It was extremely terrifying. Young Master Chong Kong! The people from the Decimo's sword sect shouted excitedly. Oh no! Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions changed drastically. Although the sword chi was still far away, its power surpassed that of the elder who was in the 4th realm of the martial ancestor realm. Without hesitation, Lu Ming unleashed his bloodline. At the same time, he condensed 4 ancient shields and struck out with his palm. Human Path Palm. A huge palm print blasted forward with the power of wind and fire. Xian Yanqing covered her body with black lotuses and struck out 3 black palm prints at the same time. Heavenly Demon Palm Print. Whoosh! The sword light arrived in an instant and clashed with the human Dao palm and Heavenly Demon palm. The instant sword. Qiu Changkong's sword aura was resplendent. The sparkling and translucent glow shone even brighter, illuminating the entire sky. Lu Ming's and Xian Yanqing's palm prints were swept away and continued to hit their defensive martial techniques. Bang! Bang! 2 violent explosions rang out. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's bodies shook violently. They let out muffled groans and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were sent flying backwards, crossing 1,000 meters in an instant. Enter the Blood Domain Devil Cave! Lu Ming growled. Together with Xian Yanqing, the 2 of them once again struck out with their palms. The powerful force pushed the 2 of them back. In the next moment, the 2 of them disappeared into the fog of the Blood Domain Devil Cave, leaving no trace behind. Whoosh! Whoosh! 6 figures appeared and stopped outside the Blood Domain Devil Cave. Immediately after, a sword light flashed and Qiu Changkong's figure appeared. However, his face was extremely gloomy as he stared at the Blood Domain Devil Cave in front of him. Young Master Changkong, don't be rash! An old man shouted. He was afraid that Qiu Changkong would rush in on impulse. The Blood Domain Devil Cave was a legendary land of death. Unless one was a martial king, they would only die if they rushed in. No one below the martial king realm had ever come out alive. Qiu Changkong was silent for a while. In the end, he did not rush in. Leave a few people here to guard. If those 2 really come out, kill them without mercy, Qiu Changkong instructed. Yes. The others bowed and replied. Humph, Lu Yuntian, no matter who saved you, no matter where you are hiding, I will find you. Qiu Changkong's voice was unusually cold, like a ruthless sword. Immediately after, Qiu Changkong stepped out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. 2 people followed Qiu Changkong, leaving 4 people to guard the place. When Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed into the Blood Domain Devil Cave, they felt dizzy. When they stabilized, they realized that they were in a desolate land. Not a single blade of grass grew on the ground. A blood-red mist floated in the air. When they looked around, they realized that they could not find their direction. They did not know where they came from. This time, I implicated you. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and sighed. Don't think too much. My goal is to trample you under my feet, Xian Yanqing said coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Xian Yanqing's temper was too strange. He could not understand it at all. However, no matter what, it was all thanks to Xian Yanqing. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to save Lu Yuntian. Let's find a place to recuperate, Lu Ming said. Previously, they had blocked the attacks of the martial ancestor realm 4th realm expert, and Qiu Changkong's sword. The 2 of them had suffered serious injuries. Humph! Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. He randomly chose a direction and walked forward. Lu Ming followed him. Previously, although the desolate land was desolate, there were still living creatures. However, this place was absolutely silent. The ground was reddish-brown, and there was not even a blade of withered grass. It was a barren land. The 2 of them walked forward for dozens of miles. Their surroundings were the same. There was no direction and no living creatures. They did not know where the way out was. Let's recuperate first, Lu Ming said. This time, Xian Yanqing did not refute. The 2 of them sat down and circulated their qi to recuperate. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. This was because he felt that there was no spiritual energy in the world. There was only a violent and ferocious aura. At the side, Xian Yanqing was also bewildered. Then, the 2 of them took out spiritual crystals and began to absorb the spiritual energy in the spiritual crystals to recuperate. After half a day, the 2 of them had recovered a lot from their injuries and continued to walk forward. At this time, the 2 of them found that the blood-red mist around them was much thicker than before. The visibility of the surroundings was greatly reduced. With their cultivation, they could only see a few hundred meters away. Any further, and it would be blurry. The two of them raised their guard and continued to move forward. As time passed, the blood-red mist became thicker and thicker. The visibility of the two of them dropped from a few hundred meters to 100 meters, then 80 meters, 60 meters, 50 meters. Roar! At this time, a roar came from afar. The two of them became serious. There are living creatures in the mist? They had not encountered one for so long. Now that they had suddenly appeared, it was very strange. The two of them were highly focused. They did not continue to move forward. Instead, they stopped and paid attention to their surroundings. The mist became thicker and thicker. The blood-red mist was like dark red blood. Roar! Roar! There were more and more roars in the surroundings. They did not know how many there were. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from beside the two of them. A murderous aura spread out, and the blood-red mist surged. A pale white claw grabbed at Xian Yanqing. The claw was like a human palm, but the fingernails were very long and as sharp as blades. The arm was covered with green hair. Xian Yanqing's expression changed. He waved his hand and a black lotus appeared. The petals flew out and hit the pale white claw. Clang! Clang! The black lotus petals hit the pale white claw. There was a sound of metal colliding and sparks flew in all directions. It was not cut off. Chapter 269. The two of them looked even more serious. This blood demon lair was too strange. The two of them focused and observed their surroundings. Roar! Behind them, a pale white arm covered in green hair grabbed at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming pulled out his spear and hit the hand. With a bang, Lu Ming saw a figure being sent flying. Roars were heard all around. Some were filled with ferocity, while others were like painful screams. Whoosh! Blood mist surged as a tall figure pounced at Lu Ming. Before it arrived, the stench of blood filled the air. This is... Lu Ming finally saw the monster's full appearance. It was a humanoid figure, 2 heads taller than Lu Ming. Its body was covered in green hair, its eyes were blood red, and it had sharp teeth. Is this a blood zombie? Lu Ming's heart stirred. He was somewhat shocked. The so-called blood zombies were a type of zombie formed after a cultivator died in battle. However, their bodies were invulnerable and they were abnormally strong. Without thinking, the spear pierced forward like a rainbow. Puff! The spear pierced through the blood zombie's body, but Lu Ming was not happy. He felt that the blood zombie's body was like an Iron Man. Although he had pierced through the blood zombie's body, it took a lot of effort. Buzz! The spear shook and the blood zombie was sent flying. However, the roars continued and more blood zombies charged at the two of them. Some of the blood zombies even started killing each other. Back off! Lu Ming shouted. The two of them rushed back, but the situation was the same. Blood zombies charged at them without fear of death. They were filled with ferocious aura as they pounced at the two of them. These blood zombies were very strong. The weakest one was a 7th or 8th grade martial master. The stronger ones were definitely at the peak of 9th grade martial master, and were even close to a martial ancestor. The key was that there were too many of them and they were very difficult to kill. The two of them immediately fell into a passive situation. Great demonic palm! Xian Yanqing's body was filled with black true qi. Black lotuses danced around his body. He waved both of his palms and black palm prints flew out, knocking away one blood zombie after another. Lu Ming's spear danced like a fiery dragon. With a sweep, 5 or 6 blood zombies were sent flying. However, even more blood zombies pounced on them. The two of them fought and charged at the same time. However, there seemed to be no end to the blood zombies as they swarmed in from all directions. The battle continued like this, and in the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. The two of them had lost a lot of their true qi. At this time, they were already drenched in sweat. I can't go on like this, I'll definitely die from exhaustion. Lu Ming's mind raced. The fog is thinning. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He noticed that the blood-red mist around him was fading, and his visibility was slowly increasing. He could vaguely see that he was surrounded by blood zombies. Most of the blood zombies were actually fighting and tearing at each other. Perhaps the blood zombies will retreat if the mist is thinning, Lu Ming guessed. When they first entered, the blood mist was not thick, and there were no blood zombies. Later on, the blood zombies appeared as the blood mist thickened. Lu Ming guessed that the appearance of the blood zombies had something to do with the blood mist. As time passed, the mist slowly faded. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing seemed to have seen hope. However, the next moment, roar! An earth-shattering roar was heard. Heaven and earth shook, and the earth trembled. In the distance, an unimaginably thick blood qi pervaded the air. Lu Ming took a closer look, and his heart began to beat rapidly. That was not blood qi. It was clearly a huge monster. The huge monster was at least 100 meters tall. It was running wildly on the ground like a mountain. It looked like a huge lion. However, its body seemed to be made of blood, and it emitted a strong smell of blood. It opened its mouth and roared. Its voice shook the heavens, and an aura as deep as the sea spread out. Then, it opened its mouth and inhaled. One by one, the blood zombies were sucked into its mouth and disappeared. Blood demon. Is this the legendary blood demon? Xian Yanqing's voice trembled slightly. Not only her voice, but Lu Ming also felt that her body was trembling. Let's go! Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing's little hand and ran with large strides. The blood demon was too powerful. Its aura was as deep as the sea and unfathomable. There was no way they could fight it. The two of them ran wildly. The blood zombies on the side seemed to be extremely shocked. They gave up attacking Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and ran away. Roar! Heaven and earth shook. The blood demon's huge body was running toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. No way! Lu Ming felt bitter. He ran with all his might, but his speed was still much slower than the blood demon's. In the blink of an eye, the blood demon was close to the two of them. Its blood-red eyes stared at the two of them. Am I going to die here today? Lu Ming could not help but think. No, I can't die. I just saved Dad. I haven't avenged him yet. I can't die! Lu Ming roared. His eyes were filled with unwavering determination, and his whole body was highly focused. Human path palm! Lu Ming roared and struck with his palm. This palm pushed Lu Ming's state to the peak. Boom! A huge palm print was formed. The palm print was almost solid, and it was twice the size of the previous ones. At this moment of life and death, Lu Ming's human path palm broke through and reached the third level. Previously, Lu Ming had cultivated bitterly in the Diyuan Cave and Divine Wind Valley for a few months before breaking through to the second level. Now, at this moment of life and death, he broke through again. The third level of the human path palm was unprecedentedly powerful. It struck toward the blood demon like an avalanche. Roar! The blood demon roared. There was a hint of disdain in its eyes. It opened its mouth and spat out a ray of blood-red light toward the human path palm. Puff! Like a punctured bubble, the human path palm that had reached the third level collapsed. The difference in strength was too big. It was not something that could be compensated with a single martial technique. Roar! The blood demon roared and pounced toward the two of them. It opened its bloody mouth and a terrifying suction force was produced. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing could not resist at all. They were sucked into the blood demon's huge mouth and disappeared. Roar! The blood demon roared in satisfaction and continued to attack the blood zombies. Grab them! Once they entered the blood demon's mouth, Lu Ming grabbed Xian Yanqing's small hand. The two of them were pulled down by the strong suction force. Don't let go of me! At this moment, Xian Yanqing's small face was pale. Her large eyes were filled with fear. She grabbed Lu Ming's hand tightly. At this moment, she was like an ordinary little girl. She was so fragile that she needed to be protected. Hold on! Don't give up until the last moment! Lu Ming shouted. His true qi surged as he tried to break free from the suction force. However, it was useless. The suction force was too strong. After a few breaths, the two of them landed on a soft place. The surroundings were filled with a thick blood-red mist. This blood-red mist had a terrifying corrosive force. When the two of them landed, they felt a burning pain on their skin. The two of them immediately circulated their true chi to protect their bodies. However, it was not very effective. Their true chi was being consumed rapidly. The two of them had gone through a huge battle and did not have much true chi left. Before long, their true chi was completely consumed. Chapter 270. Puff. Xian Yanqing suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body swayed and her face turned pale. "Hold on!" Lu Ming roared. However, Xian Yanqing's body swayed and her eyes were unfocused. She shouted, "Lu Ming, I'm going to trample you under my feet!" After saying that, her body went limp and she fell unconscious. Lu Ming was so angry that he wanted to laugh. This woman was still thinking about this at this time. Sizzle! The corrosive mist around them burned and stung their skin. Furthermore, the mist would seep into one's skin and cause one to become drowsy. Am I really going to die here this time? Lu Ming thought to himself, but he was unwilling to accept this. However, his body was getting weaker and weaker, and his mind was getting weaker and weaker. I have to hold on. I have to get out alive. I have to reach the peak of martial arts. Lu Ming roared in his heart, and tried his best to fight back. It was not his character to give in. However, this mist was too strange and too strong. It was not going to work even if he did not give in. Just as Lu Ming was about to fall unconscious, the world suddenly changed. After a moment of dizziness, Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in another place. Temple of Paragon. This is the Temple of Paragon. Lu Ming was surprised and confused. Wasn't the Temple of Paragon not allowed to enter when he was in danger? He had tried many times before, but it was useless. He did not expect to enter automatically now. However, Lu Ming was surprised when he looked up. He realized that he was not on the first 3 platforms, but on the highest platform. Below him was a long flight of stairs that led downwards. On the other side was a palace. It was exactly the same as the one he saw on the first 3 platforms. Xian Yanqing was lying next to him, still unconscious. Why am I at the highest point? Lu Ming was surprised and looked into the palace. The door of the palace was open, and it was dark inside. He could vaguely see a figure sitting cross-legged there. Suddenly that figure moved. He actually stood up and walked out. Tap tap tap, with the sound of footsteps, Lu Ming's heart started beating rapidly. It had been more than 2 years since he had obtained the Temple of Paragon. Lu Ming was extremely curious about the palace and the figures in it. He had always wanted to take a look, but unfortunately, he couldn't reach the top at all, so he could only give up. Now, could he finally get what he wanted? Step! Light footsteps were heard, and a figure walked out. It was a middle-aged man wearing a red battle robe with a sun embroidered on it. His body was extremely tall and majestic, with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. When he opened his eyes, it was as if he could see 2 suns floating in them. The aura emanating from his body was as deep as the vast universe. Just by standing there casually, he had an aura that could swallow everything and look down on the world. Facing him, Lu Ming felt like he was facing the entire world. But the next moment, the middle-aged man's aura disappeared, and he looked like an ordinary person. He looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Lu Ming was stunned for a while, then he stepped forward and cupped his fists. Junior Lu Ming greets Senior. You don't have to introduce yourself. I've been watching you for a few years. The middle-aged man's voice was filled with dominance. As expected, Lu Ming thought. He then said, Senior, thank you for saving me this time. Don't be too happy. I didn't want to save you, but I didn't want to waste a drop of 9 Dragon's blood essence. The middle-aged man smiled casually. Following that, he sized up Lu Ming carefully and said, Are you very curious and want to know who I am? Where exactly is this place? That's right. Senior, please tell me, Lu Ming said. He was indeed very curious. His achievements today were mostly thanks to the Temple of Paragon. All right, I can tell you, the middle-aged man said. Then, he put his hands behind his back and walked back and forth, as if he was deep in thought. After a while, the middle-aged man said, I'm Supreme Nine Sons. What? Lu Ming's body and mind trembled. His eyes widened, revealing a look of disbelief. You're Supreme Nine Sons from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? Lu Ming asked. Besides me, is there a second Supreme Nine Sons in the world? The middle-aged man said coldly. Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air. He was horrified. Supreme Nine Sons was too powerful. It was not an exaggeration to say that his name shook the world. Lu Ming had heard of Supreme Nine Sons before, but to him, Supreme Nine Sons was just a legend. Supreme Nine Sons came from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was the eldest disciple of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's emperory. His cultivation was earth-shattering and unparalleled. He was called Supreme Nine Sons, and his cultivation was very close to martial emperor realm. He was the invincible god of war of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Such a person could destroy Emperor Yun's 36 empires with a flick of his finger. Why would he appear here? Why would he hide in such a palace? Supreme Nine Sons seemed to see Lu Ming's doubts. He sighed and said, What you see now is not my real body. I'm already dead. This is just a wisp of my soul. What? You're already dead? Lu Ming found it hard to believe. With Supreme Nine Sons' cultivation and combat strength, who could kill him? Even a martial emperor might not be able to kill him. That's right. I'm already dead. The one who killed me is my master, the ruler of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Martial Emperory. Supreme Nine Sons said coldly. Lu Ming was shocked and dumbfounded. Supreme Nine Sons was killed by his master, Martial Emperory. How could this be? You must be very surprised, right? Supreme Nine Sons said with a cold smile. That's right. It's quite surprising. Lu Ming did not hide the truth. Ha! What's there to be surprised about? That old bastard D is just a treacherous person. He can do anything. Supreme Nine Sons laughed angrily. His voice was filled with hatred and overflowing killing intent. Brat, do you want to know why that old bastard D killed me? And why you awakened the Nine Dragons' bloodline? Supreme Nine Sons said. Nine Dragons' bloodline? Is my bloodline called the Nine Dragons' bloodline? But what are Nine Dragons? Lu Ming was very confused. Of course, he nodded repeatedly. All right, then I'll tell you everything. Supreme Nine Sons said. Supreme Nine Sons said. Then, he began to explain the entire story to the other party in detail. Nine dragons were extremely ancient and tyrannical lifeforms. Legend had it that they were a type of true dragon. However, they were different from true dragons. They were mutated true dragons. True dragons had 5 claws. They were called 5-clawed true dragons. However, 9 dragons had 9 claws. They were extremely terrifying and tyrannical. Ordinary true dragons were nothing compared to them. It was said that since ancient times, only one 9 dragon had appeared in the world. There was an ancient forbidden land in the divine desolate continent. It was said to be the 9 Dragon Ruins. It was extremely dangerous there. Supreme Nine Sons used his powerful strength and horrifying bloodline to enter the 9 Dragon Ruins and obtain some things. Chapter 271. Although Supremacy Jiu Yang had come out of the 9 Dragons' historical remnant with 2 drops of blood, he had been injured. However, he had never thought that his teacher, Emperor Di, would suddenly attack him and severely injure him. Emperor Di even took away his 9 sons' blood. Moreover, one of the 2 drops of 9 dragon essence blood was taken by Emperor Di. However, Emperor Di had underestimated the 9 sons' sovereign. The 9 sons' sovereign's 9 sons' bloodline was a divine bloodline. It was extremely mysterious. At the critical moment, the Nine Suns sovereign had self-destructed his body and bloodline and escaped with the divine palace. At the same time, he had also taken a drop of blood. After that, he had turned the Temple of Supremacy into a bronze pendant to hide from Emperor Di. After dozens of years, it had fallen into Lu Yuntian's hands. Ha ha ha, now I finally understand. Di, that hypocrite, took me in as a disciple and taught me martial arts. It was all a scheme from the very start. From the very start, he planned to take away my 9 sons' bloodline. He wanted to use my 9 sons' bloodline to attack that supreme realm. Despicable, treacherous, the most treacherous person in the world is Di. Supremacy Jiu Yang shouted hysterically. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. You were robbed of your 9 sons' blood? Whispered Lu Ming. He looked at Supremacy Jiu Yang and couldn't help feeling pity for him. Supremacy Jiu Yang had gone through the same thing as him. The only difference was that Supremacy Jiu Yang had been robbed of his 9 sons' blood by someone he respected, while he had been robbed of his 9 sons' blood by someone he loved. Kid, you should know by now that the reason why you were able to reawaken your bloodline after it was stolen was because I fused that drop of 9 dragons' blood essence into your body. I did that because your experiences were similar to mine. I wanted to nurture you and make you a peerless genius, a peerless cultivator. That's why I set up stairs in the Temple of Supremacy so that you could grow up step by step. Unfortunately, you disappointed me. You're talented, but you're reckless. Do you know that you almost died just now? Supreme Nine Yang hollered, answering Lu Ming's questions that had been bothering him. Lu Ming came to a sudden realization, but he smiled bitterly. The reason he had fallen into such a desperate situation was entirely because he wanted to save his father. If he could do it all over again, he would still do the same. Little boy, you can only take refuge in the Temple of Paragon this time. Don't do it again. The Temple of Paragon isn't a place for you to take refuge. If you don't face life and death situations, how can you become a peerless cultivator? The inscription formation of the Temple of Paragon won't disappear. You won't be able to enter when it's a matter of life and death. Supreme Nine Yang said with bright eyes. Lu Ming suddenly realized that every time there was a great battle, he couldn't enter the Temple of Paragon because Supreme Nine Yang didn't allow him to. Lu Ming nodded. This was exactly what he wanted. Every peerless powerhouse had been tempered by constant life and death situations. Brat, now that you've fused with the blood essence of the 9 dragons and awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons, it's incomparably miraculous. You can continuously evolve, and even I don't know how far you'll reach. It can be said that your future is limitless. Supreme Nine Yang said. This is all thanks to Senior's help. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. He couldn't help but look happy. The 9 dragons were even stronger than the true dragon. Now that Lu Ming knew about it, he was naturally happy. Supreme Nine Yang glanced at Lu Ming and sneered. Little boy, don't be happy too early. Soon you'll be in big trouble. Lu Ming was stunned and asked, Senior, what do you mean? Back then, I obtained 2 drops of the 9 dragons' blood essence. One of them fell into Di's hands. With Di's cultivation, he must have refined the 9 dragons' blood essence. The 9 dragons' blood essence can sense each other. Your cultivation is still weak now, so Di can't sense you. According to my estimation, once you break through to the martial ancestor realm, Di will be able to sense you instantly. At that time, you'll be robbed of your bloodline again. Supreme Nine Yang said. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. There was such a thing? What kind of person was Martial Emperor Di? He was a peak expert of the divine desolate continent, an overlord. If he really wanted to kill him, he could kill him tens of thousands of times with just a breath. If Martial Emperor Di discovered the 9 dragons' bloodline in his body, he would definitely die. No one would be able to save him. Could it be that he had to stay in the martial Grand Master realm for the rest of his life and not break through to the martial ancestor realm? No, that was impossible. As a cultivator, the goal of cultivation was to continuously break through and become stronger. If he couldn't break through, it would be worse than killing him. What should I do? Is there no other way? Lu Ming thought quickly. Suddenly, he saw a faint smile on Supreme Nine Yang's face. His eyes lit up as he cupped his fists and asked, "Senior, do you have a way?" "I do have a way, but why should I help you?" Supreme Nine Yang smiled faintly. Lu Ming was stunned. Indeed, why would Supreme Nine Yang help him? "Actually, I can help you as long as you agree to one condition," Supreme Nine Yang suddenly said. "Lu Ming's achievements today are all thanks to Senior. Senior, if you have any conditions, as long as Lu Ming can fulfill them, I will not refuse," Lu Ming said. "All right, my condition is that you have to kill Di and avenge me," Supreme Nine Yang said word by word with a cold murderous intent in his eyes. "Kill Martial Emperor Di?" Lu Ming was shocked. He then said with a wry smile, "Senior, are you kidding me? With my cultivation, even if Martial Emperor Di stood there and let me kill him, I still wouldn't be able to do it." It was not that Lu Ming was not confident, but the gap between them was too big, unimaginable. "I'm not asking you to kill Di now. I want you to promise me that you will kill Di in the future after your cultivation has improved," Supreme Nine Yang said. "In the future?" Lu Ming muttered. "What? You're not confident? Then I've misjudged you. But let me tell you, you and Di will have a battle in the end. It's unavoidable since you merge with the Nine Dragons' blood essence. Even if you don't look for him, he will look for you. It's only a matter of time," Supreme Nine Yang said with a cold smile. "Senior, I promise you that I will kill Di one day," Lu Ming suddenly said in a firm and resolute voice. Supreme Nine Yang's eyes glittered, then he burst out laughing. All right, I believe you. Let me tell you, if you can kill Di and take the other drop of his Nine Dragons' blood essence, you will gain endless benefits. You can even break through the Martial Emperor realm and enter a Supreme realm." Supreme Nine Yang was extremely excited after Lu Ming agreed. He had set up the stairs in the past few years to train Lu Ming, hoping that he could avenge him in the future. "Well, Senior, you know that Di is a martial emperor. It's too difficult to reach that realm. Do you have any benefits for me? For example, divine level martial skills, divine level pills, or divine weapons? Just give me a few dozen of them." Chapter 272. Supreme Nine Yang was someone who was very close to becoming a martial emperor. His battle prowess was even more horrifying. To put it bluntly, a single hair from such a person would be extremely useful. It would not be Lu Ming's character not to take advantage of him. Supreme Nine Yang's eyelids twitched, and his lips trembled. Divine martial techniques? Divine medicinal pills? Dozens of them? What did Lu Ming think divine martial techniques were? Cabbage? "Senior, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Why are your lips trembling?" Lu Ming asked in surprise. "No, nothing." Supreme Nine Yang took a deep breath to calm himself down. He continued, "Regarding this, I might have to disappoint you. I escaped with a strand of my soul. After I came out, I only brought this Temple of Supremacy and a drop of Nine Dragon Essence blood. As for the things I placed on the first few platforms, I obtained them by accident over the years after I escaped. Also, there is nothing on the platforms at the back. I purposely placed a box on each platform to motivate you to work hard," Supreme Nine Yang said somewhat awkwardly. "Ah? The platforms at the back are empty?" Lu Ming was flabbergasted. He was speechless. After a while he probed. "There are no treasures, but there should be martial techniques. Senior, as Supreme Nine Yang, you should know a lot of martial techniques, right? Can you teach me a few?" Cough, cough. Supremacy Jiu Yang coughed a few times and said, "I'm afraid that won't do. Di knows all the martial skills that I've practiced. As long as you practice the martial skills that I've practiced, Di will be able to sense it. A martial emperor is too strong." Lu Ming was completely speechless. So, he agreed to help him take revenge and kill Di, but there were no benefits at all. "Sigh, but don't be disappointed. I can't give you what I've practiced, but I can still teach you what I haven't practiced. Back then, I didn't only bring back 2 drops of 9 dragons' blood essence from the 9 dragons' remnants. I also brought back a cultivation method and a martial skill. That cultivation technique is the true battle dragon art that you're cultivating. That's a divine level cultivation technique. There's also another martial skill that's compatible with the true battle dragon art. It's called the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps. That's also a divine level martial skill. Supreme Nine Yang felt a little embarrassed and hurriedly said, "What? Is there really a divine tier martial skill?" Lu Ming's heart trembled. His eyes emitted a resplendent light, like 2 bright suns. Earlier, when he had mentioned deity-level martial skills and deity-level medicinal pellets, he had simply demanded an exorbitant price. He had never imagined that Supreme Nine Suns would actually possess deity-level martial skills. It was a divine-level martial skill, and from its name, it seemed to be related to the 9 dragons. Supreme Nine Suns waved his hand, and a secret manual flew out from the hall. The secret manual was made of neither gold nor jade, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. This is the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. According to my speculation, it should be a martial skill created by the 9 dragons. Its power is extremely terrifying. Even I haven't practiced it before. You're lucky. Supreme Nine Suns handed the secret manual to Lu Ming. Lu Ming hurriedly took it from him and opened it to read happily. As soon as he opened it, it was as if he saw a real dragon with 9 claws walking in the sky. A terrifying aura was applied to Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming felt intense pain all over his body, as if he was about to be torn apart. At that moment, Supreme Nine Suns waved his hand and closed the secret manual of the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. The terrifying aura then disappeared. Kid, if your cultivation isn't strong enough, don't open it. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died, Supreme Nine Suns said coldly. Lu Ming broke out in cold sweat. This is just a secret manual. Isn't it too terrifying? Kid, this manual contains a hint of the aura of the 9 dragons. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. Furthermore, with your current cultivation and the strength of your flesh, it's impossible for you to practice the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. You'll have to wait until your cultivation has reached the 1st layer martial ancestor realm, and your flesh has reached the 4th grade before you can practice it. Supreme Nine Suns warned. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming carefully put away the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps secret manual. However, he sighed in his heart. This requirement was too high. Lu Ming believed that it wouldn't take long for him to break through to the martial ancestor realm. However, it wouldn't be that easy to reach the 4th grade physical body. Although Lu Ming had reached the complete 3rd grade physical body, it was still very difficult for him to break through to the 4th grade physical body. First, he had to have a technique that could allow him to cultivate to the 4th grade physical body. At the same time, he also needed an opportunity. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to break through in a few years. I have to meet these conditions as soon as possible. He had a divine grade martial skill in his hand but couldn't cultivate it. This feeling wasn't good at all. All right. Next, I'll help you conceal the aura of the 9 dragons' blood essence. Sit down, relax your mind, and control the bloodline to appear, Supreme Nine Suns instructed. Lu Ming nodded. Then, he sat down cross-legged. His body glowed. The spirit-devouring bloodline, no, it should be called the 9 dragons' bloodline, appeared and quietly floated above Lu Ming's head. Shouted Supremacy Nine Suns. His body emitted a boundless radiance. Then, a sun appeared above his head. However, after a few seconds, another sun floated up. In the next minute, a total of 9 suns floated above Supreme Nine Suns. The 9 suns floated around Supreme Nine Suns like the god of the sun. Suppress seal! Supreme Nine Suns shouted. The 9 suns emitted endless light. Then, the endless light surged toward the 9 dragons' bloodline. It covered the 9 dragons' bloodline and formed a seal, sealing the aura of the 9 dragons' bloodline. Half an hour later, the 9 suns around Supreme Nine Suns suddenly disappeared. Supreme Nine Suns trembled and almost fell to the ground. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming quickly got up and supported Supreme Nine Suns. Supreme Nine Suns' face was pale. His body became much fainter, as if he could disappear at any time. Sealing the Nine Dragons' bloodline requires a huge amount of energy. After I seal it for you, you will soon fall into a deep sleep. I don't know when you will wake up. Supreme Nine Suns let out a long sigh. Senior, Lu Ming is unable to repay Senior's kindness. Lu Ming bowed to Supreme Nine Suns sincerely. You only need to avenge me. Also, there is one more thing that I need to tell you. With my strength, I can help you seal the aura of the Nine Dragons' bloodline. However, I can only seal it for 10 years. After 10 years, my sealing power will disappear. At that time, Martial Emperor D will be able to sense you. Therefore, you only have 10 years. In these 10 years, you must continue to break through and grow. At the very least, you must have the ability to escape from D. Otherwise, everything will be over. Supreme Nine Suns said solemnly. 10 years, only 10 years? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. What's wrong? Are you not confident? Supreme Nine Suns said. Of course, 10 years is enough. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with a hint of battle intent. All right. Now, I will subdue the blood demon. After all, you are still inside its body. Martial Emperor Nine Suns said in a low voice. His body emitted a ripple and disappeared. Then, his hand glowed and a blood-red badge appeared. He gave the badge to Lu Ming and said, This is the demon suppression badge. Use it to control the blood demon. Alright, I've said everything that needs to be said. From now on, you will have to rely on yourself. After saying that, Supreme Nine Yang staggered into the hall. Senior, if Lu Ming succeeds in his cultivation in the future, I will definitely find a way to save you. Lu Ming said. Save me? Even martial emperors can't do that. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.